Good evening. We're ready to begin. This Planning Commission meeting is called to order. This meeting has been properly noticed and posted in compliance with the open meeting law. We're live on KCLV Channel 2, and this meeting will be rebroadcast Saturday at 10 a.m., the following Monday at midnight, and Tuesday at 5 a.m. and 6 p.m. Would everybody please stand for the pledge?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Chair Moody, Vice Chair Schlagman,
Present.
Commissioner Quinn. Here. Commissioner Flanges.
Here.
Commissioner Trowbridge is excused. Commissioner Creer.
Here.
Commissioner Cherry.
Here.
Thank you.
I'll call your attention to the information printed in your agenda concerning our actions and the appeal and review process if appropriate. Please read this carefully, and if you have any questions, staff is available. Also, the second page of the agenda contains our rules of conduct. We appreciate you adhering to these rules so we can have a smooth meeting. Thank you. Public comment. Public comment during this portion of the agenda must be limited to matters on the agenda for action. If you wish to be heard, come to the podium, give your name and address for the record. The amount of discussion, as well as the amount of time any single speaker is allowed, may be limited. Seeing none, I'll close the public comment portion of this agenda. Moving on to item number 5. For possible action to approve the final minutes for the Planning Commission meeting of November 3rd, 2015. Is there a motion to approve?
There's a motion for approval of the November meeting that everyone was here.
Mr. Chairman, I wasn't present at the meeting, so I'll be abstaining on that vote.
Thank you.
There's a motion on the floor to approve the Planning Commission minutes or meeting minutes of November 3rd, 2015. Please vote. Please post. Motion carries. Let's move on to the housekeeping items. Are there any items commissioners, staff, applicants, or members of the public would like to pull forward for action?
Mr. Chairman, items 29, 30, and 31, VAR 61046, SUP 61047, and SUP 61183. The applicant has requested abeyance until the January 12, 2016 Planning Commission meeting. Items 34 and 35, VAR 61777 and VAC 61552. The applicant has requested abeyance until the January 12th Planning Commission meeting. Item 43, VAR 61411. Staff visited that site this afternoon, and we've determined that the public hearing notification sign was not on the property. In order to make sure that we comply with state law regarding notification, staff is requesting this item be held until January 12, and that's VAR 61411, item 43. Item 48, SUP 61789, and related item 49, SDR 61790. The applicant is requesting abeyance until January 12th. And those are the last housekeeping items.
Thank you. Does anyone wish to speak on these items? If so, please come forward. Seeing no one, may I have a motion?
Thank you. I have a motion to approve the housekeeping items. Number 29, variant 61046, number 30, SUP 6147, item number 31, SUP 61183, item 34, variant 61777, item 35, vacation item 61552, item 43, variant 61411, item 48, SUP 61789, and item 49, SDR 61790. The motion is for approval.
There's a motion on the floor to approve housekeeping items. Please cast your vote. Please post. Motion carries. Moving on to the one motion, one vote items. The following items may be considered in one motion, one vote. They are considered routine, non-public, and public hearing items. All public hearing and non-public hearings will be opened at one time. Any person representing an application or a member of the public or a member of the Planning Commission not in agreement with the conditions and all standard conditions for the application recommended by staff should request to have that item removed from this part of the agenda. Item number 7, TMP 61533, HOP, a commercial subdivision, applicant David Mason, owner HOP LLC, for possible action on a request for a tentative map for a one-lot commercial subdivision on the west side and 3rd Street, Ward 3. Staff recommends approval. Item number 8, ZON 61842, applicant owner City of Las Vegas, for possible action on a request for a rezone from R1 to C2 at the southeast corner of Washington Avenue and Veterans Memorial Drive, Ward 5. Staff recommends approval. Item number 9, ZON 61843, applicant owner City of Las Vegas, for possible action on a request for a rezone from R1 to C2 at 925 North Las Vegas Boulevard, Ward 5, Barlow. Staff recommends approval. Item number 10, SUP 61864, applicant owner Talon NV Management LLC, for possible action on a request for a special use permit to allow a guest house casita with 3 rooms and a bathroom at 9732 High Ridge Drive, Ward 2, Beers. Staff recommends approval. And finally, item number 11, SDR 61444, applicant owner Amber Investment Company, for possible action on a request for a site development plan review for the conversion of an existing 40-foot tall, 14-foot by 48-foot off-premise sign to a digital display unit, LED, at 336 Sahara Avenue, Ward 3, Coffin. Staff recommends approval. Does any members of the public wish to be heard on any of these items? Seeing none. Any commissioners?
Chairman Trinity, on item number TMP 61533, I live within the notification area I'd like to disclose, but it won't be affecting my vote tonight.
Chairman, state law would indicate that as long as his concerns are any different than the other concerns of other folks living in that same area, that he can go ahead and vote. His independent judgment is not affected, so I would say that he can go ahead and vote.
Thank you. And also, just as a disclosure, on item number TMP 61533, I have an ongoing business relationship with this applicant, so I'll be abstaining on that matter.
I'm ready to make a motion.
Please do.
I'm going to make a motion for item number 7 through 11, showing that Commissioner Schlottman will not be voting on number 11.
7.
7, I'm sorry. And I make the motion for approval on items number 7 through 11, showing Mr. Schlottman not voting on number 7. Thank you. Is that right? Yeah.
There's a motion on the floor for approval of the one motion, one vote items.
Yep.
Please cast your vote. Please post. Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, item 7 is final action unless appealed to the city clerk's office within 7 days. Items 8 and 9 will be heard at the city council meeting on January 20th, 2016. Items 10 and 11 are final action unless appealed to the city clerk's office within 10 days.
Thank you. Now on to the public hearing items. Item number 12, DIR 62068, applicant owner, City of Las Vegas, for discussion and possible action on a presentation regarding the City of Las Vegas downtown alley design GADBug. Staff has no recommendation. Staff, report, please.
Good evening. My name is Michael Howe. I'm a senior planner with the Long Range Division of the Planning Department. I'd like to give an informational presentation on an update to our downtown activated alleys proposal something that was introduced back in March. In that time, we've developed a guidebook with close collaboration with multiple departments in the city, Public Works, Cultural Affairs, Field Ops, to take this proposal into a feasible stage. So why a guidebook? Specifically, the guidebook looks to satisfy the urban design goals and objectives of the Downtown Centennial Plan by creating an alley beautification and management plan, something called out in the current Centennial Plan. It also allows the ability to create a process tailored to each request. Some alleys may be fully developed into comprehensive pedestrian experiences, while others may contain simple upgrades to improve daily life. The scalability is because some alleys may be more complicated and some may be more simple. They may be residential alleys or they may be full business serviced alleys. It also gives us inspirational ideas and applicable information for those that may want to partner with the city for an activated alley proposal. So what do we mean by activated alleys? The definition that we've come up with: activated alley is a public alley with various levels of improvements made under a public-private partnership with adjacent property owners. The guiding procedural mechanism to occupy the right-of-way operates under an encroachment agreement with the City of Las Vegas. So specifically, it's the encroachment agreement that will ensure that the city's goals of safety are ensured. It allows conditional requirements to be placed. So at any point that we have an activated alley and that the partnerships maybe fall apart or there's concerns with some of the neighbors and there's a conflict, the encroachment agreement basically dissolves and the alleys return back to normal. It's important to note that these are always public right-of-ways. They're not vacated, so there's an agreement that has to be in place that allows the property owners to perform to a certain standard because they're utilizing city space, public space. So what does this Downtown Alley Design Guidebook do specifically? Well, we're looking at, it seeks to address the outstanding issues that may be present with the current alley configuration. And this is, if you think the typical downtown alley, there's standing water, there's smells, poor lighting, something of a scary situation. We're trying to remedy that. We're looking, get a catalog of the things that need to be fixed, outline it, and get those addressed. That's handled by the outlining of a mechanism for the partnerships with interested property owners to increase the commercial activity, such as outdoor dining space. So this works as a redevelopment tool to basically say, what are the opportunities that if an alley's been beautified, how can it be used by the property owner so that they have a vested interest? Why would they want to go out? Why would they want to contribute to these improvements? It also identifies the development and business coordination issues early on with city staff. So prior to anybody going out and making any commitments, say we have a restaurant owner that wants to go out and do table service, and they want to introduce an expansion of alcohol sales. Well, we want to make sure the business licensing is aware that that activity is occurring. You know, how is it going to work? How will it function? So we get all our ducks in a row so everything's settled before committing to these improvements. And it also outlines the process and opportunities for implementing an alley activation plan. That last part is kind of the in-house procedural, back-of-house magic that the city's going to do when we touch every department that's affected. We're going to do our hustling behind the scenes to make sure that these alley beautification proposals work. We have to make sure that every issue is addressed because these alleys, again, are public right-of-ways. They're used for service. They're used for deliveries. They may have easements. So some cases, some of them may be more complicated than others. We want to make sure that all those issues are addressed. So this goes back to the initial concept. What is the activated alley trying to do? Well, right now, we're trying to refine downtown beautification. I think some of the downtown property owners have done a commendable job of really improving their businesses, bringing them up to a standard. It's really exciting. And it's to the degree to what they can improve. And we want to go further and take it, what can the city do to match, these business owners? We can handle, coordinating some of these improvements to get the alleys stepped up so that they match all the improvements that these business owners are going through. So why creative placemaking? This is the core concept of what an activated alley does. It's the heart of what we're trying to get in downtown. It increases the pedestrian activity or connectivity in interactive space in underserved areas such as downtown Las Vegas. This is something that we found with the existing findings with the current work on our Downtown Centennial Plan. Should be no mystery that we're fairly underserved in open space. So we're trying to take a creative approach. Where's every nook and cranny possible that we can handle some of the leisure and recreational services and just interesting outdoor experiences that might be available. You know, maybe we'll get parks, we'll have central parks, we'll have trails, but in the meantime, if we have good opportunities to work with business owners and interested parties, we want to put those on the ground too. Downtown, the creative placemaking and the activated alley, it does allow for the expansion of services through economic redevelopment. Again, if you have a restaurant that does fairly good business, wouldn't you be excited to have even more space out back to provide more table service? That's better business. It gives creative space for displaying public art and landmarks. It's been noted that we don't have enough notable public art, large sculptural pieces, creative lighting, large overhanging type of art. And so if you can conceive each alley, when fully improved, does give a little bit of an opportunity for plinths and pedestals and ways to further the beautification of downtown. So you can have a real tangible, close experience with some of the areas. It also provides a potential entertainment venues. If you can imagine right now, the beauty bar, you know, used to have shows. But what if we had it more coordinated, a little better planned, that we have little impromptu spaces for different types of events, not just concerts, but you could do performance art, what have you. And then it also deters crime with the increased lighting, pedestrian activity. You have the beautified space. If a business is occupying that space, you're really going to see that transformation of what an alley becomes pretty much a mini street for people. So we've gone through, we've identified some opportunity sites. These are just various photos. And we're looking at specifically areas that have these nice cutouts. They have lots of opportunity. I mean, if I were to tell you that these could be potentially beautiful sites, I would hope that you could see where those opportunities lie. I mean, they're beyond just, you know, rough-looking sites right now with just some careful coordination that the city does the improvements. You know, we do some good pedestrian amenities, good outlying lighting, put in the bones, or like I like to say, the foundation or the plinth, and we let the property owners do the artwork, and we have a good partnership, then we have opportunities for just even more recreational space. So how does the guidebook work? The pre-proposal development process modeled after our existing pre-application conference process. Basically, it's the typical action we have for site development plan review, except because it doesn't have any real entitlement per se, it's people occupying this public space, we still want to route these proposals through every department that's touched. So we create a file, we allow everyone to have input where it's important, so that there's always, the surprises have been averted. If there's egress issues, if people are exiting from the alley, you know, we want to make sure that those spaces are maintained. If there's easements, if there's existing utility lines, all those little things, we'll coordinate, we'll go through that and get that stuff out of the way so that it's a feasible project. And this gives the applicants the chance to meet with the appropriate departments before developing those detailed plans. And the key part of that is where they have the business management plan, where they come in, and they're looking at expanding their business. Well, what are the requirements of that? We don't want the surprise of having them go through it and then having licensing enforcement come out and say, oh, by the way, you forgot to meet with us. You know, there's some issues that we have to take care of. We want everything done on the board before it's committed to. And then this also gives the city departments a chance to handle that communication, again, behind the scenes, to coordinate and get those issues addressed before anyone sees it. So what do we have? How are we going to do this? Well, we have the facility. We have a long-range design studio. We have the ability to basically meet with the designers, the staff, the public, anyone that, again, that these proposals may be touched on, to look at coordinating, you know, modeling out the space. What is it going to take to remove the dumpsters? You know, how are you going to coordinate the maintenance? To what level of improvements do they want is the amount of interaction and intervention that the city will have. In some cases, again, it might be something simple. We have some opportunities on East Charleston where we have commercial properties abutting single-family residential with an alley. There's a great opportunity, again, to go in there and figure out, you know, how can we beautify that? How can we remedy the issue with the homeowners regarding the security, the safety, and just the overall aesthetics of it. In between that is a concept that we're trying is the pop-up alley. The pop-up alley is, we have interested property owners that are ready to occupy this space. They want to try it out. They want to give it a test drive. Well, we have the means, again, through a temporary encroachment agreement or temporary events, to have people do a proof of concept, to get out there, set the space up, and again, the city will have terms and conditions set in place so that we always have a little bit of control. So if something's not performing the way that it was sold to us or agreed to, then it ceases and it returns back to the alley. So what are our next steps? Well, we'll continue to meet with property owners, and we've had pretty good discussions with 4 property owners already in different areas. And there's been substantial interest in this because it's, for a lot of the property owners, it's a very personal issue. It's a little bit frustrating that you do all you can for your business, you step out the back door, and you have all these other issues to deal with. You realize maybe there's the drainage issue or there's just poor lighting. Well, that's the stuff that we want to take care of because the end goal for everyone is that downtown is beautiful and livable in every nook and cranny. So that leads to the adoption of the guidebook that we have to be submitted to City Council. And as this process goes through and we begin to work with looking at alleys and getting them activated, getting improved, it also opens up a whole nother concept that we have is this downtown open space within public right-of-ways. And that's where we see the parklets, streeteries, sidewalk dining. And some of the concepts, sidewalk dining, we already see. We would like to push it. We'd like to refine it a little more. The parklets, again, that's something where you see these small spaces that are designed as parks within on-street parking. And then a streetery is basically a parklet that allows the business owner to operate that parklet for dining. And that's where we're at with the guidebook, and I'll take any questions. I do have a draft of the copy available upon request.
I'd like a copy of the draft on request, please. And I'd also like to ask you, you talk so much about the increase of the pedestrian activity and the interactive spaces for more pedestrians, and it's going to be very, very pedestrian friendly, and it's going to be outside and behind restaurants. You did not mention the disabled or someone in a wheelchair, and I find it very hard to believe that someone in a wheelchair is going to be able to get out the back door of a restaurant because there's probably about a 4-inch, step down, and I also find it very hard to believe that they're going to be able to enjoy this because of the amount of people and because of the lack of thought that you put into a disabled patron, someone in a wheelchair. So I applaud I applaud what you've done, but I don't applaud the fact that the disabled were never mentioned, and I think that's something you need to think about. And you will not see my vote tonight on this because we're not voting on it. But I just think that you need to, and what I think you should do is find somebody in a wheelchair that's willing to go down there with you and show you exactly what they're talking about. And
Okay.
and I find it heartless if you don't. And that's my comment. Thank you.
And may I respond? So part of that coordination issue, and that's a crucial point, and I apologize, when I say pedestrian, I include all people. So the coordination component, when the business, the property owner that's adjacent, when they want to access that alleyway, when it becomes a public entrance, that's the part where we have to coordinate with business or building and safety. Because it can't meet occupancy. We can't allow just a segment of the population that can walk out the step. If we have to stoop it, if we have to ramp it, that's the coordination side. It's crucial, and that's where we're hoping that the pedestrian network then also becomes an amenity for everyone, disabled, rolling, what have you, blind, that they have now kind of a safe path of refuge that they can get through downtown as well.
Commissioner Cherry?
Through you, Chair Schlotman. I think it's great that we're working on a plan for this, especially with the conversation of linear parks coming up in downtown where the possibility of restricting front entrances and everything we can do to help them come to the backside of a business to ensure that their business is still well serviced, and trails that are coming up in the future. And the one question I had is, does one landowner submit the application and then it starts the process for the entire block, or does the group have to get together to do the application?
The way that we're proceeding, it has to be all affected property owners because it can't viably operate if one person's not on board. I don't see where we would allow an encroachment agreement that's going to prohibit access for one of the property owners because, again, it is public right-of-way. So that will be the challenge, and that's where we're anticipating maybe not too many of these alleys, because it's going to take some close coordination and agreements between all those that are affected.
Thank you, and I would also request a copy of the handbook, and I hope Commissioner Quinn's comments are all addressed in there as well. Thank you.
Just one question for you. I know that Mr. Kessler is back here, and he's actually part of the alley beautification in between Carson and Fremont, 6th and Las Vegas Boulevard, and currently putting in trash compactors and recycling bins, taking 15 dumpsters out of that particular area. And, you know, if it's not for people like Mr. Kessler and people coming forward in downtown project and saying, hey, we want to beautify our alley, is there any initiative like on the city's part to step up and state, hey, this alley is ripe for redevelopment? Let's go out and work with all the business owners and see if we can get all these people on board instead of leaving it just up to the business owners to pull together a plan and submit an application.
So to my understanding, there is an alley that we're looking at, that the city's looking at improving. And it'll be done to a standard, probably not to the higher threshold that the property owners, the businesses would want to see. So we can do, definitely, you know, we'll take care of the drainage, the surfacing, lighting, but what we're looking at is the opportunity to step it up a little bit further. You know, if you want really sculptural, interesting lighting, or if you want, again, you know, that public art piece, monumental, you know, impactful things, then that requires a little more coordination to get the wow factor. Not saying that we won't do a great job, but you'll get kind of a city-approved alley that'll look very nice, but it won't have probably the full ring of a improved alley.
Thank you. And this is a public hearing, so anyone wishing to be heard, please come forward and give your name and address for the record. Yes.
Christina Roush, 1137 South Rancho, Suite 120. I have property in the Arts District and south of the Arts District. And in fact, our property at 1310 South 3rd Street that we're improving right now, we're going to be improving the alley side. So we have a truck well that we're going to be incorporating into a patio that will face the alley. So I applaud your study, and I didn't know anything about it. I wasn't even going to speak on this item. I just happened to hear it come up. So I stayed. All I would ask the Planning Commission to consider, and as it goes forward to City Council, is that we're making a significant investment in our building, and we would hope that we wouldn't be hit with any kind of an SID or any other type of burdens on our part. You know, I understand that a lot of the alleys have utilities. I know ours does, and it would be an unfair burden on our part, given all the pioneering that we're doing in that area, to be hit with, you know, improvements that would be required of those utilities that might be in that right-of-way. And also, you know, we think it's really wonderful that you want to do this type of beautification. I think we can probably get our entire alley together between the properties that we own on both sides of that block, as well as our neighbors that we know real well. So I'd like to talk with you further about that and get a copy of the guidebook if I could. But we're down in an area where there is no lighting. You know, the Arts District stops at Colorado, so there's no improvements, and it's very dark down there. There's a lot of vagrants, a lot of encampments, as the city calls it. So we would really applaud and welcome and appreciate any help that you could give us in terms of lighting both on the streets, and if you want to put lighting in the alley, we'll work with you on that, and we would love it in addition to what we're putting up on our own.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. If you don't mind reaching out to Ms. Roush here in a minute and exchanging your contact information, that'd be great. There's no vote. There's no other comments amongst the commission. We'll move on.
Thank you.
At this time, I'd like to go ahead and pull items number 41 and 42 forward. Item number 41, VAR 62029, applicant Hellfire Media LLC, owner State Bar of Nevada for possible action on a request for a variance to allow 33 parking spaces where 35 parking spaces are required for a proposed 10,248 square foot museum, art display, or art cells at 600 East Charleston Boulevard, Ward 3, Coffin. Item number 42, SUP 61802 for possible action on a request for a special use permit for a proposed 10,248 square foot museum, art display, or art cells, Ward 3, Coffin. Staff recommends denial. Staff report, please.
Mr. Chairman, the subject location is not compatible for the intensity of the proposed use due to the proximity of the subject site to the residential property and the necessity of a parking variance. Therefore, staff recommends denial of both applications. Please note that additional letters of support were received after the publication for both items number 41 and 42. Thank you.
Thank you. Applicant, please, if I could have your name and address for the record.
Good evening, Laura Drea. With me is Jeff Engelhardt. We're at 520 South 4th Street. We're here representing a gentleman named Zach Bagans. He's the host of the Travel Channel series Ghost Adventures. In the course of his career, Zach has traveled throughout the world collecting artifacts from episodes of his show. After 11 seasons, Zach doesn't want to travel overseas as much, so he's basing himself in Las Vegas, where his parents have lived for more than 20 years. He chose this building because, A, it's reputed to have a ghost, as in his show. It's very old, and the Nevada State Bar just vacated their offices. When reviewing the code and operations, the current office use is more intense than our proposed museum. For example, the current floor plan shows 36 offices. If one employee were to occupy each of these offices, we'd need 36 spaces, which is more than what is on site. This is a bigger overflow than what we expect. We're only asking for a 2 parking space variance. And again, that office use, that's not including support staff, runners, deliveries, visitors, etc. The IT calculations indicate that the current office of this size generates 31 trips a day, while this use generates 5 trips a day. If you foresee a problem with the word shuttles, we'll accept a condition that the property not receive them. Now I'll speak to the waiver of parking. Initially, our site was overparked until we were told to include a basement and a second-story atrium airspace as gross floor area. The basement is a little more than 6 feet deep. It floods. It has no ventilation nor a secondary escape route. It's not accessible to handicapped people either. It's 360 square feet and includes HVAC and ventilation equipment. People haven't used this space for more than 30 years. Please consider this while evaluating the 2-space parking variance. Also consider if the valley is to adaptively reuse these unique older buildings, we'll likely need some flexibility in code. This is a 2 parking space variance. The business pro forma per Jeff expects 100 visitors weekdays and 200 on weekends. We hope you agree that this isn't too taxing on the site. Jeff is here to answer any non-land use questions.
This is a public hearing. Anyone wishing to be heard, please come forward, state your name and address for the record. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and turn this over to the commissioners for discussion.
Hi, Ms. Laura. So you said that on weekdays you expect 100 visitors. On a weekend you expect 200 visitors. And your parking variance is for 2 parking sites from 35 to 33, is that correct? Something like that?
That's correct. And of course, the visitors will come throughout the day.
Okay, so where are they going to park if 100 show up at once?
We don't expect them all to actually come via automobile. This is just off the Deuce line, and it's very close to where the hop-on, hop-off buses tour through downtown.
And tell me, inside of this beautiful old facility that I've known for many years, it's going to be an art display? Is that what's going on in there? Just art to look at and that kind of thing?
Art and artifacts. Jeff can elaborate on that.
Hi, Jeff Engelhardt, 2015
Hi, Jeff.
East Windmill Road, Las Vegas, Nevada. Yes, the buyer of the property will have artifacts which are from around the world. For example, Beefeater's uniform from the Tower of London, medical instruments from over 100 years ago, a variety of art, period artwork, and antiques circa 1938.
Will there ever be a art auction or an auction of these artifacts in this property?
No, ma'am, but we will have a small retail portion of the property, perhaps 1,000 square feet, which we will
Like
sell.
a gift shop or something?
Yes, exactly. Merchandise for the Ghost Adventure show and any, and perhaps some other replica items.
Okay, thank you very much.
Commissioner Cherry.
Through the chair, for disclosure, I live within the notification zone, and I don't feel like it's going to affect my vote at all.
And Chairman, as I said before, it sounds to me like this will affect him in the same manner that it affects anybody else in the notification zone, so you can go ahead and vote on this item.
Thank you. My comment is, I look at this property every day from where I live, and I compare it to what I see the other direction with Pawn Stars and the lines that go out the door, and very little cars in the area. And you are right, they come from the Deuce bus line that happens there, because I see them get off at the Deuce across from my house every day. Yeah, so I feel like it's a compatible fit. I am concerned about going south into the neighborhood if it really, takes off like a Pawn Star, and what we can do to ensure that, neighbors aren't going to be up in arms with cars lined up into their neighborhood, and what the applicant can do to curb that, if anything.
Yeah, yes, sir, Commissioner Cherry. One of our intentions is to have a no left turn from the south parking lot, and we also plan to have roving security to try and have people not park on 6th Street, and, oh, yes.
We also have a number, I think a third of our parking spaces are accessed off of Charleston. So a neighbor or a motorist not familiar with the neighborhood is likely going to, in my opinion, be driving down Charleston and find the street side entrance off of Charleston. And only staff will really know about the one on 6th Street.
So plan to have security, or will have security?
Excuse me. We will have security. We actually have a security consultant who is a former FBI graduate and former deputy chief of police who will work out our security plan.
Great, thank you. Those are my questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chairman,
Yes.
if I may,
Trowbridge.
thank you. I understand that the primary exit or entrance is going to be off Charleston, and also that an application has been made to list the building as a historical building, so there'll be no exterior modifications to the structure.
You are correct, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, Commissioner Greer.
Thank you. What's the goal of the museum in terms of, you say 100 people on the weekends? It just doesn't sound like a lot of people. Is this a true business venture where you're trying to grow the business and trying to make money and trying to see it expand? What's sort of the marketing plan behind it and who are you looking to attract to this facility? Because that'll dictate somewhat the growth pattern of where this museum could potentially go.
Well, this museum doesn't have as much on-site filming as, say, Pawn Stars would. Zach does have his own following of people that believe in the supernatural, which is what his show is about. In terms of marketing plans, websites, if you plan on getting on any distribution lists within the valley, you can speak to that.
Is it going after tourists? Are you looking to attract? What's the viability of this business?
Yes, we are looking to attract tourists. It should probably be bear in mind that this is ancillary income for Mr. Baggins. He has many other ventures, including his television show. So this is just marginal revenue for him, but he hopes for it to be successful, obviously, but we feel our projections are fairly accurate, but it could become more popular. But we are nowhere, his show is nowhere near the popularity level of the Pawn Stars, which is the #1 rated cable TV show.
Mr. Baggins has published books that have appeared on the New York bestseller list. He has produced a movie that will be released within the next few months. He has other projects, so he will himself be in his own offices once he buys this building. He's not renting the building, and that's where he'll do the majority of his other ventures.
So it'd be more of like a corporate office as well as,
Yes, sir.
and you guys going to charge fees to get into the museum?
Yes, sir. It'll be private museum for profit.
Thank you.
Commissioner Quinn?
I thought I heard you say, but it was like a slow little comment under your sweet little voice. Laura, did you say something there that his show will not be filmed and stuff like the Pawn Stars? It'll be much quieter or less, so there will be a show being filmed there, is that correct?
He'll go from film permit to film permit.
I'm sorry, what?
He'll go from film permit to film permit, but he'll also be doing other episodes throughout the western U.S. that he can drive to. So unlike Pawn Stars that films on their site weekly, Zach's show, it relies on other quote-unquote haunted sites throughout.
But there will be times when he's filming on the site of this property that you're talking about.
On occasion, but Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't believe that the filming will involve the public.
What? I'm sorry?
Unlike Pawn Stars, this filming will not involve the public.
Oh, okay. All right, thank you.
All right, just a few comments myself. I typically hear from John S. Park and Beverly Green and Mary Crest and all these neighborhoods every time, something comes up within the neighborhood. And, I heard from one person opposition that was concerned about the traffic, and I heard from 2 or 3 people that were in support of the project. So I've also had a request if we would consider removing the 1-year review on this, and my answer is no. I mean, there's no way I'd remove a 1-year review on this because of what the applicant's telling me, that they're not going to have that much traffic in their on their site. Then, we'll review it in 1 year, and if it's not an issue, then we can carry on. And, a lot of times people say, well, we'll have a 1-year review, and how often do we revoke something? But quite honestly, just a few months ago, I stood up here and stood my ground and said I was going to revoke somebody's special use permit and not allow them to open up a school because they didn't meet all the conditions of approval. And we gave them 3 months to comply, and I was ready to shut them down. So same goes here. If there's an issue within a year and there becomes a parking issue, I know we're 1.6 parking spaces under what's required, and if we take a look at the basement and take that into account, it's more of a mechanical room than office space. However, just start evaluating your parking options, and if you start seeing an issue with parking, start coming up with other options before the 1 year's up, because if this becomes an issue, I'm going to support the neighborhood and not approving this after the 1-year review. And if this does go forward and somebody does make a motion for approval, I would like to see the no left-hand turn added to a condition for that south parking lot. So that's my final comments. If there's no other comments, I'll be ready for a motion.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion for approval on VAR 62029 and SUP 61802. One at a time?
One at a time, please. And Chairman, if we're going to add conditions, let's add them to the special use permit, please.
Okay, so the motion will be on VAR 62029, a motion for approval.
Motions for approval, please post. Motion carries. Motion for item 42.
Through you, Chair, SUP 61802, make a motion with approval for the, with the condition that has the left-hand turn lane out of the lot. And I believe the one-year review is in this one as well, currently, correct?
Mr. Chairman, through you, just for clarification, on the one-year required review, it's a required review of parking, and is it to be administrative or a public hearing?
To the motion maker, I would request a public hearing.
Yeah, I would say it'd be a public hearing, yes.
Okay, in regards to the no left-hand turn, that is just no left-hand motions out of the parking lot onto 6th Street? Is that
correct?
Yeah. So if that is the case, I would say, as with the conditions, a one-year public required review of the parking shall be conducted at the Planning Commission. And then a separate condition, no left-hand turn shall be permitted from the parking lot to 6th Street.
Mr. Chairman, if I might, Mr. Lowenstein, condition number 2?
I'm sorry, that one's already addressed in the special use permit?
Yes.
Okay, then strike my first.
Through you, Mr. Chair, the motion is for approval with just the left-hand turn out of the lot onto 6th Street, not having that left-hand turn. Motion's for approval.
Motion for approval.
With all
Please
staff conditions.
Point of clarification, Mr. Chair? If you don't
Yes.
mind. I just want to, so that I'm clear, what exactly are we voting on? You said a lot of things go back and forth, and I'd like to get a point of clarification.
Sure. The existing condition in the staff report number 2 indicates that there's a required review in 1 year's time. The added condition that was crafted was that there should be no left-hand turn out of the parking lot onto 6th Street from the subject site.
Okay, so there's an overall public review after a year in addition to the left-hand turn on 6th Street.
That is correct.
Thank you, sir.
There's a motion on the floor for approval. Please cast your vote. Please post. Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, items 41 and 42 will be heard at City Council meeting on January 20th, 2016.
And there's one more item that we're going to bring up before we carry on. It's item number 50. Item number 50, SDR 61799, applicant Desert Gym Cats, owner the Lakes Lutheran Church, for possible action on a request for a site development plan review for a proposed 18,100 square foot commercial recreation amusement indoor facility with a waiver to allow 6-foot landscape buffer on a portion of the west perimeter where 8 feet is required at 8200 West Sahara Avenue, Ward 1. Staff recommends approval. Staff report, please.
Mr. Chair, staff has determined the proposed project is compatible with the surrounding development in the area, and the requested landscape waiver will have a minimal negative impact to the residential development to the north and the commercial developments to the west, east, and south. As, excuse me, as such, staff is recommending approval. Please note, Public Works has an if approved amended condition that I'll pass on to Mr. Pyatt for his reading into the record. Please note, we did receive additional protests after publication.
Mr. Chairman, the condition that, if approved, we'd like to amend is condition 15 of the site development review. The first sentence, we would change just the end of it, so it would read, a drainage plan and technical drainage study must be submitted to and approved by the Department of Public Works prior to the issuance of any building or grading permits, submittal of any construction drawings, or submittal of a map. And then the added part is, other than a commercial subdivision map, and then continue with the condition, whichever may occur first. And the applicant has agreed to that in an email.
Thank you. Applicant, name and address for the record, please.
Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. My name is Dana Berggren. I'm here representing the applicant, Desert Gym Cats, and I'm happy to take any questions that you all may have.
All right. This is a public hearing. Anyone wishing to be heard on this item, please come forward, state your name and address for the record. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing, turn it over to the commission for questions, comments. Seeing none, ready for a motion? And just for the record, are you in agreement with the amendment to condition number 15 as written to the record by staff?
Yes, we are in agreement with the amended condition number 15.
Okay, thank you.
I'll be ready for make a motion. Regarding item number 50, SDR 61799, with the amended condition, I make the motion for approval.
There's a motion on the floor for item number 50 with the amended condition number 15 as read into the record by staff. Please cast your vote. Please post. Motion carries. Item number...
Is that final action?
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, falling down on the job here. That item is final action unless appealed to the city clerk's office within 10 days.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
What number are we even?
Item number 13, abeyance re-notification SUP 61097, applicant Todd Kessler, owner 100 10th Street LLC, for possible action on a request for a special use permit for a proposed 3,268 square foot tavern limited establishment with 3,152 square feet of outdoor seating area at 927 Fremont Street, Ward 3, Coffin. Staff recommends approval. I am going to abstain on this as I am under contract to build this establishment for Mr. Johns, and I'll be turning it over to Commissioner Quinn.
Thank you. Good evening. May I have a staff report, please?
Thank you. Staff recommends approval of the proposed special use permit as this proposed development meets the goals of the Las Vegas Downtown Centennial Plan by providing new opportunities for commercial ventures.
Thank you very much. I hear from the applicant.
Good evening, Commissioners. Todd Kessler, 261 Las Vegas Boulevard North, here on behalf of the applicant. And with me today I have Mr. Lance Johns, who is the proprietor of Atomic Liquor and as well will be the proprietor of this restaurant called Atomic Kitchen. We're here happy to answer any questions, tell you a little bit about the project if you'd like. We would ask that you approve subject to staff conditions.
Thank you. Is there anybody here that would like to speak on this item? If so, come up to the microphone now. I don't see anybody, so I'll open it up to the commissioners. Does anybody have any questions? Mr. Sam.
Through you, Commissioner Quinn, I'm excited to see this project come forward, and thank you for continue to pioneer this area that's in great transition, and I will be supporting the application.
Anyone else? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Commissioner Quinn, I'd like to make a motion of abeyance re-notification SUP 61097 for approval.
Thank you. That motion is for approval. Please vote. Opposed? That motion passes, and we wish you all the luck down there. Thank you very much.
Enjoy your rest of your night.
Noting the abstention of Mr. Schlottman.
Madam Commissioner, that item is final action unless appealed to the city clerk's office within 10 days.
Item number 14, abeyance GPA 59270, applicant Positively Kids, owner Swan Foundation LLC, for possible action on a request for a general plan amendment from office to service commercial at 2496 West Charleston Boulevard, Ward 1. Staff recommends approval. Item number 15, abeyance ZON 59271, for possible action on a request for rezone from design commercial to limited C1 limited commercial, Ward 1. Staff recommends approval. Item 16, SUP 61698, for possible action on a request for a special use permit for a proposed 37-bed convalescent care facility nursing home, Ward 1. Staff recommends approval. And item 17, abeyance re-notification SDR 59272, for possible action on a request for a site development plan review for a proposed 37-bed convalescent care facility nursing home, Ward 1. Staff recommends approval. Staff report.
Mr. Chairman, an office building which complied with height and setback requirements was constructed on this, approved on this site in 2006 and constructed in 2008. However, the building has not been occupied and the associated building permits have not received final approval. The applicant is proposing to locate a convalescent care facility within the existing office building. Staff notes that the applicant has amended their request and is now seeking an O office zoning category. Staff recommends approval of the rezoning as well as the associated site development plan review, subject to the conditions as written in the staff report. Additionally, the applicant has requested a special use permit to allow a convalescent care facility within the O zoning district. Staff recommends approval of that request as well, subject to the following conditions. Condition 1, the special use permit shall be limited to the convalescent care of children under the age of 18 years. This use shall also be limited to children who have long-term chronic illnesses. Any change in use shall require an amendment to this special use permit as a public hearing at Planning Commission and City Council. Condition 2, approval of and conformance to the conditions of approval for site development plan review SDR 59272 shall be required. Condition 3, this approval shall be void 2 years from date of final approval unless exercised pursuant to the provisions of Las Vegas Municipal Code Title 19.16. An extension of time may be filed for consideration by the City of Las Vegas. Condition 4, all necessary building permits shall be obtained and final inspections shall be completed in compliance with Title 19 and all codes as required by the Department of Building and Safety. Condition 5, these conditions of approval shall be affixed to the cover sheet of any plan set submitted for building permit, as well as submitted as any part of any business license application. Last condition, Condition 6, all city code requirements and design standards of all city standards must be satisfied except as modified herein.
Thank you. Applicant, could I have your name and address for the record, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Karen Richardson, 4300 East Sunset Road, Suite E3, Henderson, Nevada. I'm here representing Positively Kids this evening, and I would like the team that's with me tonight to introduce and put their address on the record as well, because you may have questions for them after I finish the presentation.
Okay, thank you.
Property owner, J. Naran, 2747 Paradise Road.
Thank you.
John Gray on behalf of Positively Kids at 355 West Reno Avenue.
Thank you.
Sylvia Wolf, Vice President of Philanthropy for Positively Kids, 3555 West Reno.
Thanks.
Thank you. As you know, this matter's been before you previously, but several things have changed, and I'd like to take just a few minutes to bring everybody up to speed and how we got here tonight. The applicant originally was advised to apply for a general plan amendment to service commercial with the zone change to C1 with the site development plan review to accommodate the proposed convalescent facility. And the facility is for medically fragile children. It is planned to be in this existing building, and staff gave you the history of that existing building, located at 2496 West Charleston, and it's in the city's designated medical district. The application was supported at that time by staff, but in a meeting with neighbors in June, there were several concerns expressed about that C1 zoning. And the concern was that it might allow a use in the future that wouldn't be compatible, even though the convalescent facility that we are proposing is appropriate in that designation. That particular concern is noted in page 2 of your staff report by staff, and they actually listed two main concerns of the residents. Number one, rezoning this property to C1 would start a domino effect, leading to other properties along Charleston being rezoned from CD to C1. And number two, other uses allowed in C1 which could occur should the convalescent care facility move or close. When the items were
Excuse
first
me,
on...
could you repeat what you just said about moved or closed?
This is in the staff report, page 2 of your staff report, and staff says the two main concerns of residents, and the number 2 concern was that other uses allowed in C1,
Right.
which could occur if the convalescent facility were to move or close. That was a neighbor concern. You're welcome. So when the items were first on the agenda, staff suggested that that they be obeyed because of the neighborhood concerns and because staff was working on a general ordinance addressing a number of uses which were, in staff's judgment, misclassified in the zoning code, including the use that we are suggesting. So, since that ordinance amendment has been approved, which allows this use in the office zoning with a special use permit, that's our amended application before you tonight. So, in other words, we can withdraw our general plan amendment. And as you heard, staff fully supports the amended application. We believe that with the GPA and zoning issues resolved, that there are 2 other miscellaneous issues raised by the neighbors that we will address shortly. But most recently, we've heard complaints about the roof from one of the neighbors, and we are willing to address that issue by painting the roof in a non-reflective paint color, and that there's a request for some additional landscaping, which we're happy to address as we go forward to City Council. We don't have a specific plan on where that needs to occur at this moment. Additionally, what you may hear from the neighbors tonight are concerns about this being a 24-hour facility. And while it is open or will be open 24 hours to provide this critical care to children in our community, which currently have to travel outside of the state to receive this care. This is not a hospital, although a hospital is allowed in this district. This is not a facility that would bring children in by way of ambulance, creating noise or other distractions for the neighborhood. The children will be fed on site. There will be a kitchen on site, but as we all know, most care facilities are required to provide non-allergenic foods, and in general that means bland foods. So the kitchen will not be frying. There will not be odors created that would seep into the neighborhood. The facility really is desperately needed in the community because because children now that are medically fragile do have to travel out of state. So not only does this cause a problem for the child receiving the care, but it is expensive for the families who then want to visit their children who are out of state, and it creates an impact for the families. So really, our families, we believe, in this community deserve better. We believe we've resolved the original zoning concerns, and we believe we've responded constructively to the neighbors' concerns about the roof being too shiny and possibly being able to do something in the future with landscaping. So we are asking that you approve this matter with the conditions recommended by staff. And if you have any questions for the team, we're here to answer them.
Thank you. This is public hearing. Anyone wanting to be heard, please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record.
Good evening. Good evening, Commissioners, Mr. Chairman. My name is Mario Garcia. I've appeared here before you in the past. My address is 824 Trotter Circle, Las Vegas, Nevada, 89107. I've resided at that address for the past 23 years with my family. In previous submittals to this board, there have been several letters, probably the most significant of which was dated August 6th. It had the signatures of 13 out of the 15 homeowners. These are, owner-occupied, single-family residences that adjoin this property immediately to the north. In addition to those 13 signatures from the homeowners, we had a total of 21 signatures on that letter that was submitted, and hopefully it's part of the record. Our objections are numerous. First of all, the history of this corridor is the CD designation was put on subsequent to the original zoning, which was PR, professional office. And it's an important piece of history because that was a very strict zoning. It was limited to one story. The buildings had to be residential in their architectural nature. We've kind of the CD loosened that up a little bit, but the one key restriction that was adamantly fought for, and I hope that Commissioner Quinn, before the vote is taken, can share with the rest of the commission the history of that, of those struggles, of the neighboring residents strongly objecting to anything more than one story. By rezoning, approving this action to office, the restriction goes to 35 feet instead of the 20 feet height restriction. And frankly, I'm sure that allows for at least 2 stories, possibly 3 if the pattern of burying, part of a story underground, below grade, were to be proposed. And I think that unfortunately, because of the timing, I've been out of town. Most of the folks that I was able to get hold of, which were probably less than half a dozen, indicated that they were not aware of this, that this, if approved, the rezoning to office would take away that height limitation. And so what I'm saying is I think there are going to be a great number of individuals, once the word gets out, that will be in opposition to this. I'm pleased to hear that, the applicant is trying to work out some of those other things, but I think our key objections are this is still a 24-hour operation. The residents in this area get respite, so to speak, from the current business operations, and they're all medical. They're all medical. There's dental offices. There are other medical offices all along this corridor. But they're in either 8 to 5, 9 to 4 type of operation, Monday through Friday. So I think that there are some things that will be different in this one, in this particular application. I don't think it's frankly compatible with adjoining single-family residences. And of the 5 single-family residences that adjoin this property, there's 3 on Shetland Road, 2 in the Trotter Circle, 2 out of those 13 homeowners that adjoin it are all opposed to this. So I please urge you to take that into consideration in your vote. If you are trying to take the concerns of the residents, these are the folks that live next to or very close to, probably within 700 feet of the proposed site.
Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, may I ask Mario a question, please?
Yes.
So if a condition was put into their application stating that they were going to stay at the height that they were not going to go 35 feet, would that be acceptable to you? Sorry, my second question would be, it's kind of a sad thing, and it's a sad question. I have a disabled son, so I kind of understand it. I really am not taking anyone's side here, but unfortunately and sadly, people with children like this, they don't visit them as often as we would think they would. They might come a couple times a week during the day, but I could almost promise you that there's not going to be a ton of traffic coming in and out of there at night because these children are so sick they don't even know their families are there. So my question to you is, if they stop the visiting hours at 9 o'clock, but their staff could still come into work, would that be okay with you?
Commissioner Quinn, I think there are a number of things that we could probably work with the applicant on if it comes to that.
So those were the two you mentioned.
Right, but
and that-
I think ultimately the concern is legally, if they were to leave a month from now or a year from now, however, at some point in the future, once that property is zoned office, another business that would want to occupy that property that is permitted without requiring a special use permit could occupy it and, decide to go up a story. And I
Well-
don't think the city legally could prevent them from doing that.
I don't want to take away from the meeting, but I will say this applicant has come a long way from C1, because at C1, they weren't going to be getting anything. So at least
understand.
we're at office, and they've worked really hard to appease the neighbors and to appease this planning commission, because, as of a month ago, that I wouldn't have even listened to it because it was so nuts. So I just wanted to ask you those couple questions, and then we'll hear from the applicant. But I appreciate you working so hard for your neighborhood.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else from the public wishing to be heard, please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record. And there are a couple of microphones. If there's multiple people, please go ahead and come up so we can expedite this meeting.
My name is Alida Nelson. I live at 811 Shetland Road and have for approximately 30 years. And during that period of time, I've been here before the Planning Commission and so forth to fight for the residential nature of Shetland Road and the corridor. I think the applicant's work and what they're trying to achieve is extremely laudable, as is this particular neighborhood. And my biggest concern right now is, I don't want to be very, very repetitive, but the height restriction now is a new issue to me anyway. And I'm concerned about the precedent-setting element of this more than anything else, and appreciate the kind of work that they are doing. But the height is the biggest concern for me right now, and that others could come in and point to this particular building, or if this building changes, then we're off to the races again. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to be heard?
Thank you. I live on the south side of
Sir, can I get your name and address for the record?
I'm sorry, yeah. This is not something I do every day.
No problem.
My name is Edward Hagan. I go by Chris. My wife Jerry is up in the audience. We live on the south side of Charleston, just one street south, Ashby. The property in
Sir, can I get your address for the record as well?
2920 Ashby Avenue.
Thank you.
And we have only the one issue of height, which was mentioned. If there, and I cannot speak for my friends in Trotter who have other issues because they're closer, but if there could be something written in that there would be no modifications an hour later or 6 months or a year later where suddenly the building would get higher. The neighborhood that we're in, that area we're in, is old, it's historical, and it adds value to the city of Las Vegas. People want to move in, and we're trying desperately to maintain the character of that, while at the same time live with our neighbors. So if there could be an additional condition put in that the building stays at the height it's at, and I can only speak for myself and my wife, not my neighbors, because we just found out about this via Facebook about 3 hours ago. Anyhow, that's our feeling. It's a strong feeling, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else want to be heard on this particular agenda item? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and turn it over to the commission for further discussion. Before we do, I want to ask staff, can you tell me about height restrictions in this particular neighborhood? Is there any particular overlays or anything we need to know about?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, the area on Charleston from Rancho to Valley View is protected by a CD overlay district which limits all building heights to 20 feet in height. The zoning would not matter. Their zone change to office will not permit them to go to 35 feet. In order for the buildings to be higher than 20 feet along this corridor, a variance needs to be applied for, which is a public hearing before this body. So changing the zoning does not entitle them to an additional 15 feet in height. They are restricted by the CD overlay. It's part of Chapter 19.10 of the Unified Development Code.
Thank you. That's very helpful. Discussion amongst the commission?
Through you, Mr. Chair, it's great to hear the applicant has worked on this application so diligently with their design and what can go here. And we've heard from the neighbors their concerns, all very valid concerns. I am satisfied, though, that there is a 20-foot height restriction there. And seeing that this is such a great project, I will be supporting it. Thank you.
Okay, and just for a point of clarification, on item 15, ZON 59271, we're modifying that from CD to office versus CD to C1 zone. Is that correct?
Mr. Chairman, that is correct. And item 14 is no longer needed. That is the general plan amendment that's requesting to change the service commercial. The existing general plan for this parcel is O office, and that item's no longer needed. It can be struck from the agenda.
Thank you. That makes me feel a lot more comfortable that it's not C1 zone, that it's going to be office, and that we do have that overlay, which is going to restrict the overall height. Commissioner Quinn?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Rankin, do we just not vote on number 14 then, or do we?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I'll defer to the city attorney, but I think you do have to take action.
You can vote to strike it from the agenda.
Okay, we'll vote to strike that one. Okay, thank you. Starting with abeyance item GPA 5923770, I vote to strike that from the agenda altogether. Item 14.
There's a motion on the floor for item 14, GPA 59270, to strike this particular item. Please cast your vote. Please post. Motion carries.
Thank you. Regarding item 15, abeyance zone 59271, the zoning is going to be from design commercial to office, not to C1 limited commercial. We will see this as an office zoning. It will not be a C1 zoning, and I want to make sure that's understood by this applicant and by the neighbors, and that will stay on there for as long as I'm up here. So there you go.
Motion's
And that's on the floor.
Motion's on the floor to approve ZON 59271 to office. Please.
May I ask a question, Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I just want to make sure that we're all copacetic, that to do that, to go from, because it is noticed as C1 limited commercial, we find to be able to change that without proper notice and clarification, that we can just change it to office?
Commissioner, I think Brian Scott's going to address that.
Thank you.
Because it's a less intense use, you can do it without renoticing. If it were a more intense use, like the C2, you would have to renotice it. But since it's a lower use, you do not.
Thank you.
All right, motion's on the floor for ZON 59271 for approval.
To office.
Changing it to office. Please cast your vote.
Office. Got it.
Please post. Motion carries.
Moving on to item number 16, which is the SUP 61968 for possible action on request for a special use permit for a proposed 37 convalescent bed under the office category. Is this where I add my conditions? Yes?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Outside of the conditions that you've already listed as the staff, I want to ensure that the north side is landscaped. I suggest, just out of respect for the neighbors, that although your facility is a 24-hour facility for nurses, doctors, and that kind of thing, I would like to see it opened at 7 a.m., and I would like to see it shut at 9 p.m. for visitors, out of respect for the people that live behind you and the lights and everything else coming in. And unless if somebody's really like sick and the poor child's going to die or something, there's going to be circumstances, and I'm sorry about them, believe me. My heart hurts for them. But I have to think of my neighbors and those lights going into their backyards all during the night. So I'd like it shut at 9 p.m., and I think that's fair. What do you think?
We agree to that condition.
Okay, thank you. And then my other condition is that you discussed painting the roof so it wouldn't be so shiny into the back of Trotter Circle. I expect that you will do that out of good conscience and to be a good neighbor, but I will put that in as a condition.
Yes.
What? Yes. And then my fourth condition will be a one-year administrative review where you come back in front of us and tell us that everything's going great and that the neighbors say it's working out, and if not, we will rectify anything that is inappropriate and not working for you. I really hope so. So my motion for all of that with those conditions is for approval.
And let me just ask the applicant, so are you in agreement with the additional landscape and painting the roof, one-year administrative review, and open from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m.?
7 a.m. to 9 p.m. for visitors,
For
correct?
visitors, yes.
Yes, we agree to those conditions.
Mr. Chairman, the staff would like to ask for a little bit more clarification on it. As we just clarified the visitor hours from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. There's the painting, the roof shall be painted with a non-reflective paint.
Yes.
At 1 year required review, or public required review before the Planning Commission.
Yes.
From the issuance of business license.
Yes.
And on the landscape material, I mean, they're providing landscaping on the northern now. To what extent are you envisioning additional landscaping?
To the extent that it would block the neighbors directly behind them from being disrupted by what goes on in their parking lot. So I think it would be nice if they got with the neighbors and asked them what they'd like planted there. I don't know what to plant there. Just some tree, you know, just to increase the landscape, to make a better.
Okay. So if I could take a stab at it, additional trees shall be provided in the existing landscape buffer to provide adequate screening.
Adequate screening
between the
for the
existing
people that live directly behind it in
residents.
Trotter Circle. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. And that will be my motion on.
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
There is a fair amount of landscaping on this site, so maybe some flexibility. So additional trees may not be the right solution. And I'm not sure what that language should be, but just maybe a little more flexibility rather than adding plant material that may not survive.
Well, may I, through you, Mr. Chairman?
Yes,
I've
please.
been in that parking lot probably 7 times in the last 3 months, and whatever you have growing back there, I don't want to hurt your feelings, just looks like weeds. Okay. And they look like these things that just look like dust busters. And so if it was me, I'd pull them all out and replant it, because you're investing a lot into this project, and you're investing into their neighborhood, and I think you owe it to all of them to put in some beautiful trees, because all you got back there are weeds. I mean, they might be big weeds, but they're weeds. I mean, let's be
I
fair here.
understand. Thank
Okay, so whatever you can do to make it better and brighter, and I'm sure between now and the council meeting, you'll meet with the councilwoman, and I'm sure she'll have wonderful suggestions for you.
Yes, ma'am.
Because this has been an important item in our neighborhood.
Yes.
Okay, so
Thank
with
you.
that, those are my added conditions, and my motion is for approval.
Motion's on the floor for SUP 61698, subject to the added conditions. Please cast your vote. Please post. Motion carries.
On to item number 17, abeyance, renotification, SDR 59272. My motion will be for approval on that.
Motion's for approval. Please cast your vote.
Are there conditions in there, Doug? Just the standard conditions, right?
Correct.
Thank you.
The landscape condition is currently on the SUP, and we'll work with that.
Okay, thank you, Doug.
Please
There you
cast your
go.
vote. Please post. Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, items 15, 16, and 17 will be heard at the City Council meeting on January 20th, 2016.
Thank you very much for
Thank
working
you.
so hard with these neighbors, and I hope you stay in touch with them over the next few months.
We will. Thank you so
very
much.
much.
Moving on to item number 18, abeyance GPA 60977, applicant owner Rainbow Ann 1 LLC for possible action on a request for a general plan amendment from DR Desert Rural Density Residential to SC Service Commercial on the southeast corner of Ann Road and Rainbow Boulevard, Ward 4, Anthony. Staff recommends approval. Item number 19, abeyance ZON 6097A for possible action on a request for rezone from RE Residential Estates to C1 Limited Commercial, Ward 4, Anthony. Staff recommends approval. Item number 20, abeyance SUP 60980 for possible action on a request for a special use permit for a proposed car wash, full service, or auto detailing use, Ward 4, Anthony. Staff recommends denial. Item number 21, SUP 60982 for possible action on a request for a special use permit for a beer, wine cooler off-sale establishment, Ward 4, Anthony. Staff recommends denial. And finally, item number 22, abeyance SDR 60983 for possible action on a request for a site development plan review for a proposed 2,600 square foot restaurant with drive-through, a 3,675 square foot general retail, and a 1,905 square foot car wash, full service or auto detailing use development with a waiver of the corner lot building orientation and to allow a service or wash bay to face a public right-of-way, Ward 4, Anthony. Staff recommends denial. Staff report, please.
Mr. Chairman, the proposed general plan amendment and rezoning are supported by staff as the subject site is located adjacent to two 100-foot primary arterials, as well as the northeast and northwest corners of Ann Road and Rainbow Boulevard intersection are designated commercial. Staff, however, does not support the intensity of the proposed uses and the associated site design, which will negatively impact the adjacent residential uses. Please note the additional letters of protest and support have been received after the publishing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, good evening. Richard Gallegos, 6725 Southeastern, Suite number 5, here on behalf of the applicant in this matter. To my right is Mr. Mike Montandon. Mike, can you state your address for the record, please?
Sure. Mike Montandon, 719 Oak Bridge Court, North Las Vegas.
And the gentleman behind me, Mr. Sam Dunham. Sam, if you could state your address.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Sam Dunham, 5765 South Rainbow.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, thank you for allowing us to hold this item from a couple of meetings ago. That gave us an opportunity to rework the site as well as to conduct another neighborhood meeting. We sent out a little over 600 invitations. We had about 10 or 12 of our neighbors come to the meeting we held on November 12th. Discuss a number of things, but one of the things, if I could ask the engineer to go to the overhead and zoom out just a little bit. But as you can see on the overhead, we've listened to our neighbors' concerns. The main concern was certainly with respect to the car wash. The car wash, as you can see, has been moved to the corner location. I believe this also satisfies one of the waivers that staff had originally noted. There is one small waiver remaining, which is the tunnel facing Ann Road. That could simply be solved by extending the tunnel around to the corner, should that be the desire of the commission. But with that, we discussed a number of things with our neighbors, and we're willing to go on record in no particular order, but we did discuss that the site drainage, we would design it to the maximum practical extent to alleviate a drainage easement, the need for the drainage easement that's occurring to our neighbor to the east. And again, we're willing to go to that extent. We also discussed with the three property owners to our east about the type of trees. We know that certain folks don't like certain trees with pools, or maybe they're allergic to them. So we would, again, go on record that we would work with each neighbor individually to select a tree species that's, of course, on the list that's approved in the valley here. One of the other things we also agreed to at the meeting was that along our east property line, with which we have a 15-foot buffer, we would create approximately a 3-foot-high berm and then plant the trees on top of the berm, putting the canopy of the tree really where it needs to be, which is above the wall. So we believe it's fair to say that the folks received this plan better than our previous plan. I know we have a few neighbors here tonight, but I think with respect to some of the concerns with this redesign you see before you, it solved a number of issues. The other comment I would like to make is that there's been some discussion about overdevelopment, and I would suggest to the Commission that simply we've complied with code with the exception of the one waiver, as I mentioned, which could be solved by extending the tunnel to the to the east. However, we believe certainly that comment, there's no validity to that. So with that, I'll ask Mike if he has any additional comments. And I guess for the record, too, we do understand and concur with all conditions. Mr. Dunham is here to speak on condition 17 as listed in the SDR, certainly when that's appropriate. But with that, we'll...
Thank you. I don't have anything else to add other than the fact that we appreciate you bringing it back, letting us talk to the neighbors again and sit down with them and literally flip the whole plan over and work with them on being able to choose from the palette of acceptable trees along the east side and do whatever's necessary to help them out. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Chairman, could we clarify item 17, Mr. Dunham?
Good evening, Sam Dunham. I'm here in a limited capacity to talk about if approved condition number 17, where it is requiring the traffic study to take a look at standard drawings 234 and standard drawings 201.1. The 234 drawings are for a bus turnout, or excuse me, a dedicated right turn lane. And when I spoke with staff earlier, they said that they were not actively seeking additional right-of-way for a right turn lane. You can see that a right turn lane has been dedicated, and then on this portion of northbound Rainbow. And as far as a bus turnout, there is a dedicated bus turnout on the departure side of the intersection on Ann Road. So would like to get with staff and amend that condition such that they're not actively seeking additional right-of-way dedication, if that's possible.
All right, thank you.
And with that, Mr. Chair, we conclude our presentation.
Thank you. This is a public hearing. Anyone wanting to be heard on these items, please come forward and state your name and address for the record. Looks like there's a couple of people. There's a few mics. If you want to go ahead and come up and get prepared.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Keith Letus, 6604 Manzanita Glen Avenue. I'm the president of the Timber Creek Homeowners Association. It's the neighborhood who shares the wall on the east side of the proposed development. We spoke 2 months ago at the October meeting. The community's concerns are pretty much the same because the site product is pretty much the same. Therefore, we hope to have a vote pretty much the same of what Commissioner Flangus was prepared to do, of a vote to approve the zone change in general plan, but not the site plan. Most of the neighbors are eager for something to get built and eager for commercial. We just expect it to be at the high standards that we expect by living in the city of Las Vegas. If approved, this would be the first gas station with 12 pumps facing or adjacent to an existing residential neighborhood. I don't know, some type of, if you were looking to approve it, we do care for this plan better than the one presented last month, or excuse me, in October. 3 other issues that were mentioned at the neighborhood meeting. One is the location of the fuel pumps as proposed tonight. They're on the residential side of the gas tanks, so this would be the loading area immediately next to the neighbors' backyards. So we asked for that, if you're going to approve this, that the gas fuel areas in the loading zone be moved to the west side of the gas pumps. And the drainage issue that was mentioned today. And one other issue that was brought up was signage. We had a concern over if there was going to be any proposed tall pylon signs. The Walgreens and the other approved commercial project at the corner of Ann and Rainbow do not have tall pylon signs. The only answer we were given was that a sign plan would be submitted after approval, and it would meet code then, and we don't know what that code is. So if it's no worry, then great, but if it's going to be approved, some assurance that there's not going to be a 20-foot so that we don't know what the price of gas is when we're in our backyards. On the special use permits for the alcohol, even though there is no public schools or public parks within 400 feet, there is a private school 3 doors up the road on Rainbow, and there is a private park adjacent to a public street that neighborhood kids do walk through on their way to school, 400 feet from this site in Timber Creek. We don't have a way to fence people out. So the Walgreens was not allowed, the Walgreens caddy corner from this site was not allowed a use permit for their beer and wine, and we asked for the same thing on this corner too. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Candace Sims. I'm at 5527 Gemini Bridges. My backyard is here, so I share the brick wall here. And my concern...
Excuse me, can you show us where you're located again, because the map wasn't up at the time?
Okay, right around this area here, from this corner on here. My concern is that having a gas station virtually in my backyard is very small, so the air pollution, the vapors, the ozone, the pumps are within 60 to 70 feet, I think they told us at the last meeting, from my house, and that makes us very, very uncomfortable. The other thing is we asked that they put, if this gets approved, we asked that one condition would be that they put maybe larger trees to create more of a buffer and create more of a feeling of safety for us, because honestly this makes us feel very invaded. We feel like it'll bring an element to our backyard that if somebody's maybe trying to rob the C-store, they'll hop right over our wall as an escape route. I also feel that the fast food restaurant is extremely close to the residential property that's there, and it doesn't quite make sense the way it wraps around as far as the drive-through. The speaker box is facing Rainbow, but if there's a backlog of these cars, this is a very busy lane here where people are turning right. And so I can imagine, I've seen it in other places in town, McDonald's, for example, off Charleston and Decatur, where these cars actually back up and block this lane. And so that seems like a really bad plan there. We do feel better about the car wash being further towards Rainbow, but we actually don't feel there should be a car wash at all. So it's kind of like out of all the bad choices, what do you want? We really don't want any of it. If we had to choose, I would get rid of just get rid of the fast food altogether and maybe live with the gas station. But I would ask that they put something on the pumps, such as a better vapor recovery boot, something to try to keep the fumes down. Also, we would like the trash areas and the grease interceptors, if there's going to be a fast food area, to be as far away from our homes as possible so that we don't have a nuisance there with odors. And I'm not sure if Keith mentioned it already, but we would like the car wash to have limited operating hours if it's allowed to be there. We really don't want to hear the car wash. I think it's reasonable to ask for operating hours of maybe 8 to 8 p.m., something like that. But, you know, we're pretty uncomfortable with the C-store in the first place being like a 24-hour store, so we would at least want to limit the car wash hours. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Lisa Job. I'm at 5535 Gemini Bridges, and my house actually backs up even more to the, I'm going to call this a theme park. My house sits completely on this whole backside where all the gas pumps are, where the filling stations will be. I am completely impacted with my entire backyard. In our last meeting, the council agreed that this proposed plan was too much for the plotted area and would have a negative impact on the homes and directly behind the proposed, I call theme park, gas station, convenience store, car wash, fast food. I do not feel that the developers took the council's concerns that led to the denial at the meeting. The so-called revised plan keeps all the buildings proposed, but simply moves things around, still proposing a Disneyland-like development that will impact our homes. My understanding, the new proposed owners of the building is the same company who owns a duplicate-like property that is just 0.05 miles away. Today, I drove by the site and took pictures of the car wash windows, which have 5 broken windows in them. I do have a picture if you'd like me to. My understanding, these windows have been broken for at least a year or less. It's been actually more than 3 months that I do recall. If the proposed gas station is built behind my home, I'm guessing 100% that that will happen behind my house. They cannot keep a property up. They cannot keep a property right up the street looking nice and maintained. I'm sure the exact lack of care will be demonstrated on the new site adjacent to my property. I feel this is a heavy impact on the property value, but not in the favor of the current homeowners of us that back up to this proposed site. Lastly, I was told by the neighbors that the reason why the development is not doing the past building plans as previously built, combining the 2 businesses together of a gas station, fast food under the same roof, quote, the developer in the last neighborhood meeting said, these days of the terrible Herbst McDonald's under the same roof cannot get along together and fight over maintenance and bathroom cleaning. Now they need their own buildings, making this site footprint bigger and more invasive, common areas, and fighting over who's responsible to maintain the common areas between the 2 businesses, all because they are not able to get along. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Anyone else wanting to be heard, please come to the podium. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing, turn this over to the commission. Before we'll give the applicant 3 minutes for any kind of rebuttal or any kind of remarks.
Mr. Chairman, just a couple of comments and clarifications. We do agree and certainly accept a condition to relocate the gas fuel tanks as depicted in our plan further, again, to the maximum practical extent to the west, as well as the loading zone that's currently depicted. We understand those concerns and agree with those completely. Mike, do you have any other comments?
Again, there were a whole lot of items listed there. I just wanted to make a couple of comments. The private school to the north was mentioned, and you already have in file that we do have a letter of support from that school that supports this issue. And again, on the trees and the fence, we understand, there's different trees you can pick from the palette, that the canopy begins at a different level, and that's absolutely our intention, is to pick the appropriate trees with the canopies and burn them so that the canopy and the fence line provide the maximum amount of buffer from the homes next door.
Thank you. Commissioner Quinn?
Could you tell me, Mr. Gallegos, how tall is the fence that backs up to these nice people's homes that they pointed at? This fence right here, how tall is that fence?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I believe it's the standard 6 foot, without getting an exact measurement, approximately 6 foot in height.
So a consideration would be to raise that wall?
Yes, and
I mean, the trees are one thing, but if it was me, I'd want the wall. I'm just making a suggestion.
And actually, Commissioner Quinn, that was brought up at the meeting, and the limitation is actually set by the city as far as the wind resistance of the wall and the foundation. If it's legally possible, we'd be more than happy to raise the wall.
Well, I think there are circumstances where it would be legally possible, because this is right in these people's backyards. I mean, let's face it, I could jump that fence. So anyway, I just wanted to know how tall the wall was. Thank you.
Commissioner Flingus?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am really torn on this because I want to help y'all, and I also want to protect those neighbors. I clearly think the property's overbuilt, but I appreciate your efforts in getting things moved over. I like the idea that you put the car wash on the other side of the property away from the house, because that was probably the #1 reason why I asked you to obey this last time we were here and told you you weren't going to get my support on it. On the other hand, I'm thankful that you're going to move those tanks to the west, and you'll have no problem to do that, I assume, and will stay in code. I really have a lot of concerns with those neighbors here, and so I'm going to reluctantly support you tonight, but I'm going to slap some conditions on here for you going forward to the city council. And one of the conditions, obviously, will be on your SDR to definitely move those fuel tanks to the west. They're too close to somebody's backyard. I want to put a condition there that, you know, in very intense vegetation. I want a wall, trees, undergrowth under there, as much as you can get in there. I thought I heard one of y'all talking about doing a berm or something and then putting the fence on top of the berm a little bit.
Not the fence, but the trees on top of the berm.
Trees on top of the berm and the like. I'm going to ask you also to put a condition there just to, you know, to go ahead and put your lineup around the corner on your car wash tunnel. And then I got a quick question for you on your car wash. The car wash itself, when you were here before, you had a extended tunnel, meaning that you wouldn't hear the blowers on the dryers and stuff because the cars would still be in the tunnel while they were getting dried off. Is that, I couldn't tell from the backup material. Is that still here?
In its current, through you, Mr. Chairman, in its current configuration, no. However, with the added condition of extending the tunnel, that would give us the ability to perhaps achieve that goal, and I think we would accept that.
Yeah, and just for the record, I want to note that while the pictures, I find the broken windows deplorable on that other one, I will tell you that this is a completely different design. This is a self-serve, unlike the other one down the street. This is you drive your car in and it washes around your car and you drive out. It's just a single operation self-serve.
Moves over your car.
Was that a yes or a no? You're going to
Yes.
extend the tunnel?
We will extend the tunnel.
Thank you.
And then on your SUP, I'm going to slap a condition on there for operating hours. Because I think Terrible Herbs, even in my neighborhood, operates from, I think, 7 to 7, or I think it is like that. So I'm going to put a 7 to 7 condition on your special use permit, because I wouldn't do anything different in that neighborhood from my neighborhood in that regard. I think those are the conditions I'm going to ask that you guys put on here when I do make a motion on this. I have no further comments unless somebody else has comments on the commission.
Mr. Commissioner Cherry.
Through the chair, is the canopy, it's a 20-foot high canopy?
That's correct. Again, through you, Mr. Chairman, 20-foot high with a 17-foot clearance. So
It would be nice to see some type of way to kind of block out some of the lighting that's going to go towards the residents to the side there.
we can certainly go on record with today's lighting technology that there would be zero light pollution to our neighbors. All light would be directed downward and inward to the site, as well as the fixtures using the canopies. I don't know if you notice, are flush nowadays instead of below, so you don't really see the light source itself. You just see the result of the lamp.
So if there is a motion, I certainly would like to see that is a condition on there as well, please.
Thank you. And a question for staff. The propane tanks, is there a minimum distance separation between, from a residence to the propane tanks?
There's no propane.
Oh. What are these tanks?
Gas storage tanks for the
Gas
fuel.
storage tank.
Underground?
And they're
Underground, yes.
They're underground, and they'll be moved over here to the west.
Okay.
And while we got staff's attention on questions, real quick, another question that came up a little while ago. I don't know what the maximum height on signs are right now in that area.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, in a C1 zoning district, depending on the type of sign, you could have a freestanding 40-foot tall sign, All signage would be subject to residential adjacency, which is a 3-to-1 slope, so on a 40-foot sign, they have to be 120 feet away from the residential property line, which I believe this site could accommodate, so there would be the ability to place signage in conformance with the C1 zoning district, which would be up to 40 feet in height.
And then I think this next question's for the city attorney. I don't know if we can require them to raise the fence. I think that would require another variance, if I'm not mistaken.
I think above a certain height, isn't it, Tom, is it 8 feet that they can go up to?
I think it's 6 in that area, if I'm not.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, as it's not in a special area plan that has a height restriction other than the Unified Development Code, anything above 8 feet would require a variance.
Okay. That'll be another condition on your SDR, an 8-foot fence. Yeah, and block wall. I think you got block wall already going in there, is that correct?
The block wall's existing.
Yes.
If it's already existing, that means I'll have to build one directly next to it or kind of enter into agreement with the neighbors to raise their existing one if the footings are sufficient to hold the extra courses.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. If either way, one of those things will have to happen. You guys are in agreement with that?
Yes, if we can have the condition to allow us that flexibility. we'd be
Sure.
willing to work with that.
Commissioner Creer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Question for you. The pictures of the terrible herbs down the street, is that owned by the same person as stated by the resident?
This will be operated by Terrible Herbst.
So Terrible Herbs owns this one and they also own the other one?
So they don't own this now, but they will operate this one.
Okay. I think that the resident makes a very, very good point. I mean, if those windows have been busted for a year or so, however long the resident said, then if I lived there, I would think, number one, why haven't they been fixed? That's one. Two, what makes me think that the same thing's not going to happen right on the corner for me?
I'm not going to disagree with you, Commissioner.
Okay.
It's deplorable. We don't have anybody from Terrible Herbst with us today, but that's a conversation we definitely have.
Okay, and I think that with that, then, sort of a friendly amendment, if possible, to have a site review on this, so that we can ensure that those issues are not happening, to come back.
Of course, in this tunnel, there won't be any windows.
Well, maybe this particular tunnel, but that leads me to think, what else is going to go on, too, though? You got me? I mean, broken out windows that's easy to fix.
So can
That's
I
just a
ask
matter of I
question
just don't
about-
want to do it.
Can we send code enforcement out to the other one? I mean, do we have that ability?
Well.
We're getting off subject with.
Yeah, sorry about
I mean, Commissioner, you can place a condition on this particular application that it comes back for a 1-year review if that's not already part of the conditions.
I didn't hear it part of the condition. I would hopefully that Commissioner Flingus would allow that as a maker of the motion.
From certificate of occupancy.
Yes, Commissioner Flinkus, one last thing before you make a motion. Question for Lucian. At the beginning of this group of items, they were talking about amending item number 17. Does Public Works agree with that amended condition of number 17?
Sure, Mr. Chairman. I'm happy to state that we're not seeking any additional right-of-way through this application. There's a condition 12 that requires a pedestrian access easement. But I would recommend leaving it's a standard traffic study condition, and if it doesn't apply, then it won't apply. I just recommend leaving the condition as is.
Thank you. I'm ready for a motion.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
one more question.
Commissioner
And maybe you can answer this question from your personal business. The type of wall that would deflect the sound the most, is that just a standard brick wall, or are there other walls that would deflect the sound even greater?
I'm not sure if I would assume that would deflect the sound greater than just a wood fence with holes in it.
But as you talk about, maybe you can ask, as you talk about building a wall that's going to, I don't know if you need a freeway quality, you know, they put those big freeway quality walls up. I'm not sure if that's required, but if is a block wall sufficient to properly?
I do have some experience in this
Please,
area.
Mr. Mayor, thank you.
Nothing deflects walls the sound as much as the landscaping.
Okay.
So the wall is an integral part of that sound attenuation, but the landscaping makes the big difference.
Thank you.
Yes, Commissioner Trowbridge, please.
I'm not suggesting anything other than just making a comment. You know, the appearance package of one of these is critical, and it would be really impressive, I would imagine, to the city council if you could say, as soon as they pointed out to us those windows were broken at the other facilities, we fixed them. That would sound nice, don't you think?
Through the chair, Mr. Trowbridge, noted.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I'm ready to make motions.
Please do.
Beginning with item number 18, which is GPA 60977. Move to approve.
Motion for approval. Please cast your vote. Please post. Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, for item number 19, which is ZON 60978, move to approve.
Motion for approval. Please cast your vote. Please post. Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, item number 20, which is SUP 60980, I move to approve with the following condition, that the operating hours be limited to 7 in the morning, 7 a.m. till 7 p.m., and that includes all vacuums and everything else.
And does applicant agree to the conditions?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Motion for approval, subject to conditions. Please cast your vote. Please post. Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, item number 21, which is SUP 60982, move to approve.
Motion for approval. Please cast your vote. Please post. Motion carries.
And finally, Mr. Chairman, item number 22, which is SDR 60983, I move to approve with the following conditions. That the, number one, that the fuel tanks be moved as far west as possible from the eastern portion of the property. The next condition, additional condition, will be to raise the wall up to 8 feet, and with flexibility to either do a separate wall or to add additional layers of wall on top of, or excuse me, additional layers of brick on the existing wall if the footings will support it, or 3, to remove walls if the neighbors agree to it and build all new wall that way. So I'll leave you the flexibility there, and again, it has to be block wall. The next condition will be to open, to move the tunnel around, curve it around on the northern part so that the open portion of the tunnel does not open up into Ann Road, and then to extend the length of the tunnel, which will probably be done with that additional curve, to mitigate noise by allowing the dryers to be well within the tunnel before the cars exit. The next condition will be no light pollution. The lights have to be fixed in a way that it absolutely does not illuminate any of the eastern neighbors' properties. I think that's all the additional conditions I have, so move to approve.
Does applicant agree to all the
Yes,
added
Mr.
conditions?
Chairman, we do that, and again, we want to go on record that we will commit to continue to work with our neighbors who are adjacent to us.
Just before we vote, there was one additional condition Commissioner Quinn just reminded me of, and that's the trash bins and grease pits for the fast food restaurant. They need to be away from the eastern portion and everything covered and concealed as much as possible.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, again, through the overhead, The Grease Interceptor is located to the west end here for the fast food, and the Sand Oil for the C-store, car washes, again, for the further.
Thank you. I guess we won't need that as an additional condition because it's in the site plan.
Mr. Chair, I have a question. Thank you.
Yes.
I don't know if I heard about the one-year review. Is that within this agenda item?
In deference to the Commissioner, I'll add a one-year review from the time of certificate of occupancy.
Make that be administrative.
Administrative review.
Thank you.
Are you in agreement with all the conditions, added conditions?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Motion's on the floor for approval, subject to
December
staff's
12th,
conditions.
champion Jose Aldo takes on bitter rival interim champ Ireland's Conor McGregor. Plus, Chris Whiteman puts his belt on the line against Luke Rockhold, UFC 194.
Mr. Chairman, items 18, 19, 20, 21, and 22 will be heard at the City Council meeting on
Keep
January
adding it up,
20th,
boys.
2016.
23-0, best start in NBA history, and they just rolled again tonight, beat Indiana. Got interesting a little bit in the fourth, but watch Klay Thompson.
He was awesome tonight.
Wasn't he, though? You said it, that, what do you have, 29 in the
Ladies
first
and
half?
gentlemen, we're going to take a short
What do you end up
recess,
with,
so the
Right
clerks
now?
can
We'll check it out.
let their
Because
hands rest.
we were
for
guessing our
brief moment.
over-under.
We'll be
I
back
had it
within
at
10 minutes.
42, Brother McGordy at 43. Timmy said he'd get 50.
Game got interesting late. What was the line in this game? 5.5? Yeah.
They covered.
Got really interesting late. There was some late chances for the Pacers. The crowd got into the game. They made some shots.
I believe what you said earlier, Draymond Green, I believe, got a technical foul.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go ahead and continue with this Planning Commission hearing with item number 23, VAR 61938, applicant owner Las Vegas Bible Church. For possible action on a request for a variance to allow no additional off-site improvements where complete street standards require a 5-foot wide sidewalk, a 5-foot wide amenity zone, and other amenities are required for a 60-foot minor collectors at the northwest corner of Donald Nelson Avenue and Jones Boulevard, Ward 6, Ross. Staff recommends denial. Relating to item 24, abeyance re-notification for possible action on a request for a special use permit for a proposed 3,344 square foot church house of worship use, Ward 6, Ross. Staff recommends denial. And item number 25, abeyance re-notification SDR 60379 for possible action on a request for site development plan review for a proposed 3,344 square foot church house of worship with a waiver to allow a building not to be oriented to the corner and the street front where such is required. Ward 6, Ross. Staff recommends denial. Staff report, please.
Mr. Chairman, these items were held in abeyance for the applicant to address neighborhood concerns and redesign the project. The result of that redesign was a need for a variance for off-site improvements, which include no sewer extension, no construction of the half-street improvements, sidewalk, curb, and gutter. Conditions of approval do defer these installments and require a covenant to be recorded with the land. Staff finds the variance and waiver request are self-imposed hardship and therefore is recommending denial of all applications. Please note, if approved, there's some amended conditions. Condition number 10 to be amended, the first sentence to read as follows: construct all incomplete half-street improvements on Donald Nelson Avenue, including appropriate transition paving meeting current city standards adjacent to the site, concurrent with the on-site activities, unless a variance, such as variance VAR 61938, is approved to defer these improvements. Also, delete condition number 11 as it's no longer needed. Please note we do have, and these are all on the SDR on item number 25. Please note we have received additional protest and support since publication.
Thank you. Applicant.
Lennon Christopherson, 2885 East Quail Avenue, Las Vegas, Nevada, here representing the owners and the applicant. Just wanted to go over quickly the design, some of the changes that were made. Originally, when the application was before you and we went through the neighborhood meeting, the church was oriented towards the corner, as well as the improvements, full improvements on Donald Nelson. From that neighborhood meeting, some of the concerns were that first, we had an entrance off of Donald Nelson. Second was the orientation of the building was towards the neighborhood as it was oriented towards the corner. And then the parking was another concern. Also a concern was the design of the structure itself. So we've gone back through, done a redesign, put the building to the northwest corner of the lot, took the entrance off of Jones, and then at the request of the neighborhood, agreed that we wouldn't do any improvements on Donald Nelson. Also, with the parking, we originally had, I believe, 16 to 17 parking spaces. What's required is 13, but we are providing 20. Originally, the landscape buffer has always been the intense landscape buffer adjacent to the neighbor to the west. We felt that it was since it's a non-residential use, that to buffer him was always a concern. And we've provided that and still providing that. Staff has concurrently said that they need to provide a 6-foot screen wall. We've always, as a group, as we were going through with decisions, going through the design, it was always set that we would either meet or exceed the city standards. Because it is always difficult when you're coming in with variances and waivers. And we tried to do that previously, but to meet some of the things that the neighborhood wanted, we obviously have had to change that. tried to address every concern that the neighborhood has had. Traffic is a concern, but again, this is on Sunday. It's a low use. There is no peak that we could give you a traffic count for, because it's not during peak hours. Uses aren't. The other concern is the expansion of the church, use of daycare, childcare. That is not part of this application. It was on purpose because they do not want to have that operation. And if we concur with staff's current conditions, and here to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. This is a public hearing. If anyone wants to be heard, please come to the front. We're going to go ahead and limit this to maximum 2 minutes per person. We're going to go ahead and state, please don't repeat anything that's already been stated before, and this is a land use matter. So let's talk about the land use versus any other items. Name and address for the record.
William Burgos, 6161 Joe Marcy, Las Vegas, Nevada. William Burgos, B-U-R-G-O-S. I hope that you guys deny this project. Once again, I've been out there 23 years and fought anytime that there was something that wasn't originally supposed to be in the master plan that we had out there for the Northwest area. In their own admission, just kind of using their own plans and stuff, they've said that they're halfway overbooked right now on this building. If they get 20 more people that start coming to their church, now they've outgrown it. And that's our concern, is that once you outgrow it, then what happens? And we're left with an eyesore in the neighborhood. Okay, I have no problems with churches, whatever it is, but the fact that now you're trying to come into our neighborhood and you're not coming in the right way, or not doing it the way, you know, it should be built, or should be built maybe in a different area, it just doesn't help us at all. There's a lot of hardship that goes on with some of the things. If improvements have to be made, and I know the city sometimes says, well, yeah, we won't do it, but at the end of the day, there's people here standing behind me that got hardship when they built the curb and gutter on Jones, on the cul-de-sacs right there, right next to this project. So I would ask staff to, or the council, I'm sorry, my apologies there, to continue to deny this project, and I wish these people well, and maybe they can find another area to go to.
Thank you.
Michael Bradich, 6171 Whispering Sands. The property is within eyesight of my property.
Can you pull that microphone closer to your mouth?
Yeah, sorry
Thank
about that. The property is within eyesight of our property, and we're just not looking to have it there. Just not feasible for our development over there.
Thank you.
So, thank you.
Brad Garrett, 6130 Donald Nelson Avenue. I'm 2 doors down from the project. I'm in denial of it. Traffic problems. I don't want people parking on my street when they overflow. Eventually, it's going to end up being a commercial project when they run out of people coming there. It could end up being a daycare. I don't want no commercial property right by my house.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to turn in my denial form.
Yes, Lucian will grab that for you.
Thank you.
And there's multiple microphones, so if y'all could just line up at the next microphone so we can go through this as quick as possible.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My last name is Griffin, G-R-I-F-F-I-N, first name Henry Lee. Address 6170 Whispering Sands. I'm about 4 houses from where this is going to be built. I left my home up in Summerlin to move to that part of town because I like the nice rural area, the nice country scene and area, and I really am in denial on this. My concern is that at our last meeting when we spoke with the engineers, about 70–80% of every question addressed to that gentleman, his answers were hypothetical. Well, that's all hypothetical. But hypotheticals do come down the road. I mean, once this is established and built, you know, there is the possibility that they will grow. I mean, obviously, as a church, they want to grow for their parishioners and for their organization. And as that grows in numbers, well, then the facility has to grow. And I'm in total opposition to this. And I think that there's numerous places throughout this entire valley where they could build this and be welcomed by the neighborhoods, because they don't seem to be welcomed by anybody up in this part of the town.
Thank you. Appreciate your comments.
Hi, I'm Sandra Carr, 7681 North Jones Boulevard.
My property backs up to Donald Nelson. The church, the proposed church, would be catty corner to my lot. I have a petition here with 122 signatures of residents in the neighborhood, 8 pages here, that I'd like to present everyone in opposition to this church. This may be redundant, but we're concerned about traffic. We're concerned about possible future development coming in, this being an open door for rezoning. We're a rural area. We like it that way. We want it to stay that way. Our homes are zoned RE. And if a church is put on that lot, that's not a residence.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Kevin Kelly, 7681 North Jones Boulevard. My concern is, if you're asking for a variance or a special use permit, you obviously don't belong there. And this, I don't believe, belongs in a residential neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Kathleen Heckley. I live at 6141 Whispering Sands Drive. It's only 1 block in from Jones, but I know that on Sundays it's recreational vehicle time. There are horse trailers that go up and down the streets, horses that go up and down the streets, and our kids ride mini cycles and all. I think it's a danger to the children in the neighborhood, even though many of us have been in the houses for over 20 years, grandchildren. But I really oppose this. They should put in the effort that they're putting here, spending the money that they're spending here on another lot where they would be welcome. And I'm a church-going person myself, so I don't oppose to a church, but not in my neighborhood.
Thank you.
My name is Ida Maselli, 7780 North Jones Boulevard. My home is directly across from the proposed project area. I am opposed to supporting a self-imposed hardship, and that's what this is. And I agree with everything my neighbors have said. And I don't think we should have to be, I've lost my voice today. I don't believe we should have to be burdened with a self-imposed hardship. And I hope you go along and deny this project. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, Cal Hancock, Nancy Williams. We live at 6131 Whispering Sands, 89131. We are diagonally across the block from where the proposed property is. And for a number of reasons, we oppose this. They've said that they're going to put a wall and landscaping and all that between them and their nearest neighbor. That's fine and good. And they say that they're not going to be concerned about the flies, the smell of the manure, the noises, the dust that comes with horse property. That's fine, well, and good for now. I don't believe that they can speak for the future. Somebody may change their mind and say, we're having a wedding out here, which is a whole nother thing for traffic and parking, sorry. And then we've got to fight all of this battle all over again. So I think we really should deny this whole project. And another thing is we live here in this area, which is a rural area. We like it that way. And we're looking at this as the first hole in the dike.
Exactly.
As Commissioner Quinn said, this is the first domino being tipped. So earlier this evening, you used that expression. So, thank you for that.
Thank you. Yeah, this is rural area, and it should stay that way. Once they go in, that means down the road, other things will go in. And we want it to stay rural.
Thank you.
And we've got denial cards, too.
Good evening. Sandy Penning, 6110 Whispering Sands Drive. Directly out my front door is 3 vacant acre properties, and the church is adjacent to that. So I will be right outside this situation all day long. We did buy out in that area to move our children away from the chaos of the city and have rural area out there for us to live in. RE, we thought we were protected RE under the RE routing or ruling that we could only have residential properties out there. There are approximately 8 acres, one right next to me at the corner of Jones and Whispering Sands, that are vacant. And again, once one person gets a variance, then we start filling 8 other acres of property that are right around my complete house. We just really oppose this situation and hope that you guys listen.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you. My name's Maria Livingston. I live at 6120 Whispering Sands Drive, right next door to Sandy, and I have the same concerns with traffic. And in fact, when I moved there 22 years ago, one of the things I checked on that, desert lot was what was going to be able to be built there, because I did not want to move there if it was going to be for businesses. And the master plan stated nothing north of Elkhorn for businesses. So now we're, proposing a business here. So I hope you oppose this, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mason Cheryl Hardy, 6131 Donald Nelson Avenue. As you know, that when you allow a church to get into the appropriate zoning, the daycare is allowed. So it isn't something they have to come back to you to ask for. If they change that use, they can just do it on their own wheels. Secondly, with growth, if they add onto the building, add a continuous space, parking will be an issue. And again, we bought out there 20 some odd years ago with the intention of having quiet peace. Got 13 grandkids running around out in the street continuously. You try to watch them, but sometimes you can't. But and then the pig farm mentality. Bob, he built RC Farms out there when he built it, and nobody cared. And today, everybody cares, and they're complaining, and they try to make you move. And how many hundreds of thousands of dollars did legal fees cost in that? We don't want to go down that road either. So we're opposed to this property being used for this purpose, basically because it's too small for the use. And they need to find an appropriate size piece of property for that use.
Thank you.
Tony and Christina Lorenko, 6121 Donald Nelson. We live in a cul-de-sac right around the corner there. I simply feel there's just not enough room. I live on a half acre, and when I have a family function, there isn't enough room for parking. So you can't convince me they got enough room for a church. And if they did get the church on the south side on Donald Nelson, if there's just vegetation there, there's nothing to stop them from parking on Donald Nelson and walking through the vegetation. I would require at least a block wall to cut off that access, if approved. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Carl Canavo, 7671 North Jones. I am just right on the corner of that, and we pretty much, this is my wife Terry, we pretty much agree with what everyone has also said, so.
Oh, we just bought out there to get away from the city, so
And, yeah.
here we go.
All right. Thank you.
Good evening, Shalina Robinson, Nicholas Robinson, 7630 North Jones Boulevard. We're actually at the intersection of Farm and Jones, so we're in a cul-de-sac. Our main concerns are obviously traffic flow and people parking in our cul-de-sac when traffic overflows into other locations. Aside from that, sorry guys. In the middle of Jones Boulevard right now, there's a median. So in order for people to actually turn into this, if they're going north on Jones, they would have to come down and make a U-turn and come back. So it's going to again, back up traffic all the way down the road. So main concerns there. And we support everything else that everyone has said.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Richard and Karen Hansen, 6111 Donald Nelson Avenue. We live 2 properties down and across the street from the proposed site. We're against this. We're concerned about the overflow traffic, and we're in a private cul-de-sac, and we expect to see that they'd be parking along Donald Nelson and in our court as well. We're worried about the future uses of this property, and again, as it expands, there'll be more people there, and then other businesses. I bought here to be in a rural area with the understanding that it was an RE zone, and we'd like to try and keep it that way.
Thank you.
No, that's all. Thank you.
Melanie Overton, 6151 Donald Nelson Avenue. I agree with my neighbors. We moved out there over 20 years ago. The street, Jones was still dirt. Our street was still dirt. I opposed them putting pavement down. We have horses, we have dogs, we have children. They're constantly up and down the street. More traffic proceeds to more people potentially being hurt, horses, animals. I agree with everything that the neighbors said. We do oppose this in our neighborhood. Unfortunately, Like they said, one thing leads to another. We bring this church in, they expand, they buy the other properties. What are we to expect? That we've moved out there in a rural area, and now we have a convenience store on the corner. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else wanting to be heard, please come forward.
Thank you.
Carl Rhoda, my address is 60 Cold Springs Road, Las Vegas, Nevada 89124. And if that sounds out of the league for you, that's actually in Cold Creek, a little community about 50 miles from here. But I attend the Las Vegas Bible Church, have for 35 years. And I would like to address, in my own way, some of the concerns that I have heard. And this is all from my own experience. I've lived in Clark County for 45 years and attended several different churches. And I've found that churches generally make pretty good neighbors. They're not loud. They're generally considerate of their neighbors and want to be friends with their neighbors. The traffic has been addressed, and I submit that you already have the traffic there. Jones is a pretty busy street, and having driven through that area, not all the back streets, but down Jones from Horse Avenue to down close to the 215, there's 10 separate properties that I counted that are vacant facing on Jones. And I looked at them and I says, who's going to build a house there facing on Jones with all this traffic? The only people that are going to build there are commercial activities. And if I had my choice, I'd rather have a church next door to me as a buffer between my home and Jones than a strip mall or any other commercial activity, because we're busy 1, maybe 2 days a week. And that's the only time that we affect the traffic. Other businesses, 12 to 24 hours a day, depending on the type of business. And depending on the type of business, the noise doesn't stop, but ours does. And
Sir, you have about 20 seconds left.
okay. We would be a buffer for the noise between the houses and the people who live to the west of us. And I would urge approval. Thank you very much for your time, Commissioners.
Thank you. And thank you, everybody, for keeping your comments less than 2 minutes. I appreciate that. I'm going to give the applicant just a few minutes to address any of the remarks that were made here, and then we'll turn it over to the commission.
Just quick, there's just jotted down some of the child care. It's not an allowed use. We would have to come before you again to get that approved through the public hearing. We're not asking for it. They don't want it. Second is the commercial zoning. We're not rezoning the parcel. We're going with the use permit. The parcel will be zoned RE. If the church does move, it would still be zoned RE and would be subject to those design criteria and uses. Parking. Looking at the project from the last meeting, because it was brought up as well, what if happens if you expand? If we do expand, right now we can add an additional 10 to 12 spaces, which would be 30 to 32 spaces at the current parking for Las Vegas Code, Title 19. It would be 120 people. We can't fit 120 people in there. The church said if it starts growing big, they would do 60 per, they would split it into 2 services, 60 per service, which 30 parking spaces would be more than adequate to provide that. So with that, the chapel itself could handle pushing the limits to what the fire department would require, could handle 60 people. We could do that. So the expansion, in my mind, as the architect and engineer, is that they're going to need more office and classroom space, not chapel space. The block wall, again, on Donald Nelson, the church is willing to do. The church is willing to develop Donald Nelson with the city. So if you deny the variance, the church will do those improvements. because whether it's a resident or whether it's the church, if you're within 660 feet, you have to go and you have to grab those improvements. That's not a rule that we make up. It's not something that we want to do to the neighborhood. It's a requirement set by the city. I think I've answered all of them. As far as the development as it's going, there's actually 8 parcels that are on Jones Boulevard that are one-offs, meaning they're 1-acre parcels. The others can be combined to do cul-de-sacs, but in this case, as you can see, this is an existing cemetery. You've got the LDS Church, and then just recently on Elkhorn and Jones, you approved a memory care. Again, these are non-residential uses. They're not commercial, but they're non-residential. And as you can see, as you move forward, you have potential for the future. Again, non-residential uses, but not commercial. And again, here to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Commissioner Quinn.
Is the pastor here? Hi.
Hi.
Good evening, sir. So your colleague said you're going to be only open on Sunday. That means, oh, I'm sorry, what is your name and address for the record, please?
My name is Nathan Reichert. My address is 8928 Snow
I missed your name?
Nathan Reichert.
Mr. Record. Okay, so Mr. Record, they said when they presented it, you're only going to be doing service or mass or whatever you call it on Sunday. Is that true?
I think he also mentioned a second day during the week, 2 days.
He didn't mention that. I didn't hear it. I write everything down. So now we've gone from Sunday to what days a week?
Wednesday evening.
And you said another day. What was the other day?
Wednesday evening was the other day.
So
I thought he mentioned that during traffic. I'm sorry.
okay, so by Sunday, does that mean from 9 to 5? Does that mean in the morning, in the afternoon? Because, you know, like when I go to church, it's like from 9 to 10:30, and then I come home. So what does your church do?
We usually have Sunday school around 9:30 to about 10:30.
Sunday
and then
school.
A service from 10:30 to 11:30. So, you know, our peak time would be 9:30 to 11:30. There may be a few people who are there early to set up,
Right.
and a few people who are there.
So then after 11:30, the place just shuts down till Wednesday?
Pretty much. I mean, as a pastor, I may be there through the week doing study, or if someone needs counseling, there may be.
Is this in
one.
an existing home that you're going to bring this church, or is this are you going to build the church? Is this?
It would be built. It's just bare land right
Okay. And then the other thing I wanted to know was, how was your neighborhood meeting? Did you have one?
And we've actually had 2.
You had 2.
And
they didn't go so well.
Neither one went what I would call well.
Okay.
But most of the objections were the objections that were noted here,
Okay.
just kind of more in a repetitive fashion and trying to get everyone an
Right.
opportunity.
Okay. I won't take up any more of your time. I'd like to hear from my other commissioners. Thank you.
Commissioner Creer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In my ward, in Ward 5, we have an issue of churches coming aboard in residential areas, and it's a hodgepodge of zoning that has happened over in the west side of Las Vegas, and it hasn't really been corrected. People feel as though they have a calling and they want to open up a church. Now, this is a new establishment versus converting their home into a church. But, I mean, this is a residential estated area. It's zone RE, and it's meant for residents. And I can't see supporting a church on a residential area, especially considering with the number of neighbors who are against this. So I won't be supporting it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Last several years, this board has been very protective of the rural areas of Las Vegas to preserve the rural quality. We've done everything to, you know, where the code required sidewalks, we did away with that so that we could preserve that nature, and I don't see that this is a compatible use. I just think it's the wrong place to go in. I'm very, I'm very torn to have to say this, but it's just not the right area. You've got too many neighbors that moved out to that area to live rurally, and a church at this juncture is just not compatible with that. So unfortunately, you won't be seeing my support on it tonight.
And looking at the map, I see a lot of residential, even, you know, directly adjacent to and Button Jones, and, you know, I know parts of Jones has turned into largely commercial, depending on what part of Jones you're on. However, when we have 26 people come out from a neighborhood, and especially when they're neighbors that are, you know, just within one or two parcels of this, a future church, it's really hard for us not to listen to the neighbors and what they think is best in their neighborhood. So I have no further comments. If anybody would like to craft a motion?
Just let me.
Yes, Commissioner Trowbridge.
I think that the neighbors expressing their views has got to be given considerable weight. But I would simply like to comment that the variance requesting waivers from all the offsites wouldn't be necessary had it not been for the neighbors to request it. The second observation is that that's a valuable piece of acreage, and someone made the comment that they really didn't see anyone building a home facing Jones. Now, I think that the neighborhood could chip it. Let me finish, then you'll know whether you want to argue with me or not. Okay? The opportunity for something to be developed there, it's going to occur. So it's going to occur with or without curbs, and something's going to be built. If the church owns it, I don't even know if they own it outright, but I can see them just selling it the highest bidder. Next month or 2 months afterwards, somebody might come in here saying, I paid X dollars for that 1 acre parcel out there, and I want to build something that's more objectionable. You know, they want to put in that apartment complex, and just be alerted, you're going to win tonight. But something's going to happen there. It's not going to remain vacant land where you can, you know, protect it. There's a rule that a parcel is entitled to its highest best use. So something's going to happen
Please,
there.
no
I'm going to vote
comments.
against it, and I think you would just remember what I've said. Maybe next year, maybe next month, something's going to be built there. So you might want to get together and say, what can we tolerate? Can we all chip in and buy that piece of property from the church and put in an arena? Who knows? But something's going to happen to that land. It won't sit there feral forever. That's all. Thank you. And I'm going to vote against it, but just relax. Something's going to happen. I think that's all.
I'm ready for a motion.
Ready. I just want to say that, you know, living here for over 50 years, I value so much the rural area because there's so little of it. Where these people live is like living on a pot of gold because there's not much of it left. And therefore, I'm going to be making the motion for denial this evening on your project and hoping that they stay rural. So starting with number 23, variance 61938, I'm going to follow staff's recommendations for denial.
Motion's been made for denial. Yes vote is for denial. Please cast your vote. Please post. Motion for denial carries.
Thank you. Going to item number 24, which was the abeyance re-notification, I will be making the motion for denial.
Motion for denial on item 24. Yes votes for denial. Please cast your vote.
And on to number 25, related item, abeyance re-notification SDR 60379. That motion also will be for denial. Thank you.
Motion for denial. Yes votes for denial. Please cast your vote. Please post. Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, items 23, 24, and 25 are final action unless appealed to the city clerk's office within 10 days.
Thank you. Moving on to item number 26, abeyance SUP 61299, applicant Marcus Grizzy owner Durango Sahara LLC, for possible action on a request for a special use permit for a beer, wine cooler on sale establishment within a proposed 2,537 square foot restaurant with 800 square foot outdoor seating area and a waiver to allow 0-foot distance separation from an individual care center licensed for more than 12 children where 400 feet is required at 8615 West Sahara Avenue, Ward 2, Beers. Staff recommends approval. Item number 27, ZON 61483, applicant Efren Calderon, owner Thomas and Arlene Calderon, for possible action on a request for a rezone from R1 single-family residential to R2 medium low-density residential at 804 Dyke Lane, Ward 5, Barlow. Oh, I am sorry. That was not related. Disregard item 27, and let's go on item 26. Staff report, please.
Mr. Chairman, the subject location previously maintained a restaurant with service bar license, which expired on October 1st of 2014. The applicant is seeking to establish a beer wine cooler on sale use at this location in conjunction with a proposed Italian restaurant. Staff finds the proposed use can be conducted in a compatible and harmonious manner with the rest of the shopping center, is recommending approval of the application and associated waiver request. Thank you.
Thank you. Applicant, please.
Yeah, my name is Marcus Skridzi. If you use the hand, it works out pretty good. Marcus Skridzi, owner chef at the restaurant here in question, and we're just going to have a beer and wine license. I think before they had a liquor license, like a where they served hard liquor, but we're just going with a beer and wine license and good food. I say the best Italian food in the city.
Great.
And I'm at 8615 West Sahara Avenue, Las Vegas, Nevada.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
This is a public hearing. Anyone wishing or wanting to be heard, please come forward, state your name for the record. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing, turn it over to the commissioners for comments. Commissioner Trowbridge.
Seeing none, I'm ready to make a motion in regards to special use permit 61299, and make a motion for approval subject to all staff recommendations, conditions.
Motion's been made for approval. Please cast your vote. Please post. Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, this item is final action unless appealed to the city clerk's office within 10 days.
Thank you.
Now back to item 27, ZON 61483, applicant Efren Calderon, owner Thomas and Arlene Calderon, for possible action on a request for rezoning from R1 single-family residential to R2 medium low-density residential at 804 Dyke Lane, Ward 5, Barlow. Staff recommends approval. Staff report.
Mr. Chairman, the applicant has proposed to rezone the subject site from R1 single-family residential to R2 medium-low-density residential. The R2 medium-low-density residential is consistent with the general plan designation of medium-low-density residential. Therefore, staff is recommending approval of this request. Thank you.
Thank you. Applicant, please. Applicant, are you the applicant? Yes, please give your name for the record and your address.
Efren Calderon, 804 Dyke Lane, Las Vegas, Nevada, 99104.
Thank you. Would you like to talk on behalf of your item?
Yes, well, I was asking for a solution or request for a change of zoning from R1 to R2. Just what?
Okay. Thank you. This is a public hearing. Anyone wishing to be heard, come to the podium, state your name for the record. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing, turn it over to commissioners. Commissioners, comments? Oh, Commissioner Trowbridge.
I'm sorry.
If there's no further comments, I'll be looking for a motion.
Through the chair, I'd like to make a motion for approval of ZON 61483.
Thank you. Motion's on the floor for approval. Item number 27. Please cast your vote. Please post. Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, this item will be heard at City Council on January 20th, 2016.
Thank you. Moving on to item 28, ZON 61791, applicant Precedent Properties LLC, owner RMH Trust, for possible action on a request for rezoning from RE to R1, single-family residential at the northwest corner of Durrell Lane and Decatur Boulevard. Ward 6, Ross. Staff recommends approval. Staff report, please.
Mr. Chairman, the applicant has proposed to rezone the subject site from RE Residence Estates to R1 Single Family Residential. The R1 Single Family Residential is consistent with the general plan designation of medium-low density residential, and therefore staff is recommending approval of this request as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Applicant?
Good evening, Commission. My name is Levi Parker, 3425 Cliff Shadows Parkway, Las Vegas, Nevada 89129. Here on behalf of the owner and the applicants, simply requesting approval for a rezone as stated to R1. It's consistent with the land use plan. I think it's less than the medium density which was put out in this area. We held a neighborhood meeting 2 weeks ago. We had no opposition. No one showed up in any opposition. We've received no letters. I don't think the city, I tried to check in today, I don't think they've received any opposition.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is public hearing. Anyone wanting to be heard, please come forward, state your name for the record. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing, turn this over to the Planning Commission for discussion. Seeing none, I'll request a motion.
Through the chair, I'd like to make a motion for approval of ZON 61791.
Motion for approval, ZON 61791. Please cast your vote. Please post. Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, that item will be heard at City Council on January 20th, 2016.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Moving on to item 32, VAR 61644, applicant Verizon Wireless, owner Alta Decatur Shopping Center LLC, for possible action on a request for a variance to allow a residential adjacency setback of 172 feet where a minimum 240 feet is required on the northeast corner of Alta Drive and Decatur Boulevard, Ward 1, Tarkanian. Staff recommends denial. Staff report, please.
Mr. Chairman, staff finds that there is no hardship associated with this application, as a tower could be placed at a different location or redesigned to allow for conformance to the residential adjacency standards of the zoning code. Staff's recommendation is for denial.
And I apologize, there is one other item, related item. It's item number 33, SUP 61648, for possible action on a request for a special use permit to install a new 80-foot tall wireless communication facility, stealth design, concealment screen, use, Ward 1, Tarkanian. Staff recommends denial. Is there any additional staff report? Okay, thank you. Applicant?
Good evening, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. I'm Tracy Klein with Spectrum Services, 8905 West Post Road in Las Vegas, appearing for Verizon Wireless. Mr. Chairman, the reason that Verizon needs this site is a pretty simple one, data. We're all very familiar with the way we've changed using our phones over the last 3 or 4 years, and Verizon is busy trying to keep up with that demand, as are all of its competitors. If you were to talk to the building departments around the valley, they could tell you about literally the thousands of permits they've issued to the wireless companies modifying the sites they have across the valley over the last 3 or 4 years. And Verizon's been a big part of that as well. There does come a time, however, when cell sites reach their technical limits, and that's what's happened here. The aerial that I have with me shows you the location of an existing Verizon tower. It's at Oki and South Decatur. It's been there for several years. And what's happening is that there is a set of antennas that point more or less due north and cover this area around Alta and Decatur. And this cell site, these things are, of course, very closely monitored, and it's on a trajectory that over the next few months, it's going to lack the capacity to serve this area as it has been doing, because the data usage just keeps increasing. The only way, after all the modifications have been made to fix that, is to have another cell site. And they need that cell site in proximity to Alta and Decatur. The blue area that you see outlined here is the area that the engineers asked us to look in. We did expand that boundary somewhat, and we did identify several potential candidates. All of those were not viable for various reasons. We've been working on this for 18 months. I won't go through all that for the sake of time, but I'm prepared to if you'd like for me to. The proposed tower location is here, and I'll talk to you a little bit more about what is proposed. This is the intersection at Alta and Decatur. This is the Alta Decatur Shopping Center that's owned by the Becker family. I think they're well known to most of you. Mr. Barry Becker is here tonight if you happen to have any questions for him. I guess the anchor tenant here, if you would, is the Walgreens that you see here. There's a McDonald's on this corner. If the photograph were a little bigger, you'd see a Taco Bell at the other corner. Back in the background is a storage facility. What's proposed is an 80-foot structure that we have simulated its appearance here. That particular logo type design has been used once in the valley, and I'll talk about that in a minute. This particular design of cell tower has not been used frequently in the valley. There are a couple of them on the 95 that have been there since I came to Vegas 15 years ago. The one that is most prominent in my mind is at the Lutheran Church at the Tenaya Overpass. It has a cross symbol on it. This was not the design we originally proposed when we began a dialogue with Councilwoman Tarkanian about the project. We proposed a monopalm because you can see the neighborhood to the east has some mature tall palm trees. You can even see them from the intersection. But she does not like the palm tree design. And this was a design she favored and one that Verizon agreed to do. The panels are larger than they would actually need to be, and the reason for that is to accommodate a second potential user. A second set of antennas and equipment can be mounted inside these panels, all being completely screened from view. I think that is Councilwoman Tarkanian's principal reason she favors this is that it screens everything. I'm not sure how well that this panel is going to orient, but I'll try. The location that has been selected, quite frankly, picked us about as much as we picked it. The engineers did not have a preference about where it is. We didn't pick this because it's an easier place to construct, because Mr. Becker made it available cheaper. There were simply no factors other than driving through the shopping center and picking out the most logical spot. The project location, I actually have that drawn a little bit incorrectly. I noticed after I printed it, it's actually here. This location, this arrow indicates 172 feet from this nearest residential property line, and this yellow line indicates 240 feet, which is, of course, the setback. That setback also applies to the residential to the south. So this was basically the area of the shopping center that we had where setback could be met. If you go to the Taco Bell parcel, it's a marvel of how to get a restaurant on a really small parcel and use every square inch of it. It's very tight. You can spend approximately 30 seconds on that parcel and decide there is no place for a cell tower here. There is a lot of parking in the shopping center, but there's a lot of it in the back that doesn't get used a lot. This parking that's in the front at Taco Bell, at McDonald's, at Walgreens is used a lot. The Walgreens parcel, this is actually the drive aisle here at the back of the building, so that's not a possibility. The parking along the front, very busy, the side, very busy, and then the McDonald's actually flows into some of this parking. The parking that you might make an argument to delete would be here along Decatur, but that is certainly not an appropriate spot for an 80-foot tower, and of course Walgreens, like any commercial venture, is not going to hear it. The Walgreens parcel actually wasn't even available to us because there is a restrictive covenant that Walgreens has had in place with the Beckers for many, many years that Parking can't be deleted, and the drive aisles altered as long as they're there. The McDonald's parcel is similar to the Taco Bell. It's intensely parked, and it just doesn't make sense to delete any of it. When you start looking at the drive aisles through the property, this parking here would be right in the front of mom and pop local businesses, as it would be here. So this was simply the most logical, sensible place to think about deleting parking and putting, frankly, anything, and particularly a cell site. We also were pleased with the amount of screening that the storage building, which is 35 feet tall, would provide to the residential to the east. Of course, I've been in Vegas long enough to know that you all are very jealous of your residential setback. And so we went into this with eyes wide open and knew what we were up against, which was part of why we began our dialogue with Councilwoman Tarkanian's office early. And a part of our effort involved some outreach to the neighborhood. I didn't choose my color very well, but I've outlined here in blue, which is essentially a 500-foot radius from this dot. And I sent 34 letters right before Thanksgiving, mailed to the same addresses that you all use for your notices. I did get 3 or 4 of those back, undeliverable, vacant, no forwarding address, that sort of thing. I did have communication from the property owner at 4621 Nolan Lane. He contacted me by text message. I had provided my personal cell number in the letter, and I answered a few questions for him, and he told me he supported the project, even though he's a T-Mobile customer. I did get a phone call from the owner at 4624 Alta Drive. She indicated that although she was an AT&T customer, she'd reviewed the photo sims and materials I had seen, and she had no problem with the project. I didn't hear from anybody else, and so on Monday of this week, giving up that I would hear from anyone else, I went out and I went door to door. I focused my efforts in this area here. I was able to actually get a phone number off a vehicle for sale at 4628 Alta Drive. I spoke with the tenant there, Mr. Martinez. He said they had received the letter, they'd reviewed the contents, they had no problem with it, and saw no reason to call me. He did say that they had passed that along to the owner. I asked him to please give that owner, to let him know again, I would like to talk with him. Please call my cell number. I did not hear from him. I did not get a response when I went to the residence at 4629 Nolan Lane. I did leave a copy of the letter, handwritten note with my cell number asking them to please call me. I did make contact with an occupant at 4625 Nolan Lane who told me that the owner wasn't home. Again, I left the letter, handwritten note, please call my cell number. I did not hear from her. I had exactly the same experience at 4624. At 4628, I went to that residence a couple of different times on Monday. I got no response. I don't believe that residence is occupied. At 4629 Mayflower, I had a similar experience to the folks on the corner. I found there was a piece of equipment for sale, phone number on it. I called the owner. He said he hadn't seen the letter. He's been out of town. Gave me his email address. I emailed everything to him. And he seemed very interested, and that's the last I heard from him. I texted him on Monday, and he has not responded. So the responses that I did get were not in opposition, and we're fine with it. I did make a genuine effort to speak with these folks, and I just wasn't able to. We did also, even though the Beckers own all of the properties in the commercial center, we did speak with every business there. There are 9 businesses. I did not contact Storage One. I do business with them. I know how they feel about cell towers. They love them. The manager at Walgreens told us that he wasn't able to comment, company policy. One other owner told us he was too busy. All the other owners said, or managers said they were fine. This photo simulation was generated from a photo I took about 6 houses deep on Nolan Lane. The height may be slightly exaggerated, the size slightly exaggerated. I wanted to err in that way. And this was provided in the letter that I sent out to the neighbors.
Do you have many more slides to go through, or many more pages?
Just one.
Okay, all right.
I mentioned earlier that that panel design had been used before, and this is a tower that's at Charleston and Valley View. This tower was a little different. It began life as a regular monopole and was retrofitted for these panels. I took this photo at 172 feet from it. I took this photo at 240 feet from it. This shading represents a 35-foot building that might obscure the base of it, to give you some sense of what the difference is. You may have noticed from my previous aerial that we are one block, we're one lot from meeting the setback. We've worked hard to design a project that would be sensitive to neighbors, to try and mitigate some of the impact. We've made a genuine effort to reach out to them, and I hope we've earned your support.
Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and open this up to, as a public hearing. Anyone wishing to be heard, please come state your name for the record. Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing. Turn it over to Planning Commission for comment. And if there's no comments, we'll look for a motion.
I think Mr. Becker should be thrilled and excited that you, Mr. Klein, did such a great job for him. You not only went into the neighborhood, you did more than anybody can expect, but I think most importantly what we're seeing here tonight is a standard being set for a cell tower. Because when you first called me, I wanted to throw up. I was like, oh my God, an Elton Decatur, my God. And it's owned by Mr. Becker, no way. But here's the thing, it's beautiful, it's awesome, and you're going to see my full support tonight, and I'm ready to make that motion.
Please do.
I'm making it right now, and it is number 32, variant 61644. I'm going to follow my own heart and make the motion for approval.
Motion for approval. Please cast your vote. Please post. Motion carries.
Thank you. Related item SUP 61648. I'm going to make the motion again for approval. And thank you very much for your presentation.
Motion for approval. Please cast your vote. Please post. Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, items 32 and 33 will be heard at City Council on January 20th, 2016.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Moving on, item number 36, VAR 61859, applicant owner DR Horton, Inc., for possible action on a request for a variance to allow no off-site improvements where complete street standards require a 5-foot wide sidewalk, a 5-foot wide amenity zone, and other amenities for 60-foot wide minor collector streets on the west side of Eula Street, north and south of Azor Drive. Ward 6 Ross, staff recommends denial. Related to item 37, waiver 61857 for possible action on a request for a waiver to allow no streetlights where such are required. Ward 6, Ross. Staff recommends denial. And item number 38, waiver 61858 for possible action on a request for a waiver to allow a gated 37-foot wide private residential street with no sidewalk or amenity zone where a gated 47-foot wide residential street with a 3-foot wide amenity zone and sidewalk and other amenities are required on the southwest corner of Azor Drive and Eula, Ward 6, Ross. Staff recommends denial. Staff report, please.
Mr. Chairman, the applicant is requesting 2 waivers and a variance to not construct public streets and private streets to complete street standards. and to not construct streetlights for public streets. Staff supports current complete street standards, therefore we do not support the requested variance and waivers to defer offset improvements. The request is a self-imposed hardship, and therefore we recommend denial of all applications. If approved, public streets will be created that need to be maintained by the adjacent homeowners associations or individual lot owners, as they will not meet public maintenance standards.
Applicant.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. My name is Bob Gronauer, 1980 Festival Plaza Drive. I'm here representing D.R. Horton in this matter. If I could get your attention to the overhead. As you can take a look at the overhead here, the property that we're talking about is 10 acres of property here. It's just south of Regina Avenue. You have Wallapai, which is located over in this area. This area, if you're familiar with this part of the northwest area of Las Vegas and Clark County, is known as your rural neighborhood preservation area. And when you're in a rural neighborhood preservation area, one of the most important things for the neighbors in here is to ensure that you have what they call as rural street standards. Rural street standards are no lights, no sidewalks, limited amount of paving on the road itself, curb, gutter, etc. As you can see here, actually what's ironic here is everything south of Regina, except for these two 5-acre parcels, are located in Clark County, and all of the properties are developed to those, what I just mentioned earlier, rural street standards or rural development standards. What we're asking for on these 3 applications is to be just like everything else in this area. As a matter of fact, within the last year, I've entitled this property working with the neighbors in this in Clark County with respect to keeping it a rural neighborhood preservation area. We had the entitlements already approved in Clark County for rural street standards. We had to come in and annex the property into the city for sewer services. Because of that, we now have to go back through the process and ask to do what we did before by having the rural street standards. So that's the purpose of the variance and the waiver of the applications itself. The second waiver application is for the internal street itself to the subdivision. We have a gated, one of our 5 acres down here is a gated subdivision. It doesn't have your typical street standards, which has already been approved in the county and working with the neighbors on that also. So with that being said, I'd ask you to approve the 3 applications, item 36, 37, 38, subject to staff's recommendations.
Thank you.
Conditions, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Conditions, not recommendations, is there for denial.
Okay.
It's late for some reason.
All right. So this is public hearing. Anyone wanting to be heard, please come down, state your name and address for the record.
Yeah, good evening, Commissioner and Chairman. My name is Peter Filiberti, and I live at 9975 West Azure Drive, which is the it's the west property on the southmost parcel right there. And I would like to say that the neighborhood was kind of confused when we got this notice from the city, because we worked so hard and diligently with Mr. Gronauer's client and trying to get something approved that worked in our neighborhood. About 6 months worth of work with the Planning Commission at the county, and Commissioner Brown himself got personally involved. This was a big, big deal. And so I spoke with the neighbors. I sent a letter in today with my concerns, but I spoke with the neighbors after 4 o'clock, and they wanted me to come down and voice some concerns, which they had. They're in favor of the 2 variances, the one with no street lights and no paving in the streets and so forth. But one of their big concerns was that all of the conditions that were put on this project at the county, that they get carried forward. Maybe, I know we don't have an interlocal agreement or anything like that up in the air right now, but that all those conditions get carried forward into this project in the city, so that all that work doesn't go to waste. And the only concern I have with the one waiver 61858 with the smaller street, it's really not typical that the street that small is in the area. Most of the development that's been done there that are this typical type of development have a 47-foot street. I don't know if it's because of fire or what it is, but my real concern is that decision really shouldn't be made until these guys have an approved drainage plan. And that came to light when they contacted me for various reasons regarding their grading and something like that. But I did some research and I contacted the engineering here at the city, and they told me that they were denied the drainage, and that's a big concern where we live because the waters there, they're a big problem. And so I don't think we should be making decisions. I'm not saying yes or no. I'm not for or against it, but I don't think we should make the decision on the street size until an actual drainage plan and an actual map is solidified and approved. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wanting to be heard? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing, turn it over to the commissioners. I'll give Bob 20 seconds if you want to address any of that.
I'll try 15 seconds here fairly quickly. The conditions that the gentleman has mentioned, D.R. Horton has committed to adhere to all those conditions. This is the same subdivision that was approved in Clark County, subject to a long list of conditions. We have some elevations that we agreed to with the county that we were going to for grading elevations to make sure we don't block views. We're doing single-story big homes in this area. So nothing has changed outside of we're in a different jurisdiction.
Thank you. Commissioner Plingus?
If there's no comments, I'm prepared to make a motion.
Yeah.
Please do.
Mr. Chairman, beginning with item number 36, which is VAR 61859, move to approve.
Motion to approve. Please cast your vote. Please post. Motion for approval passes.
Mr. Chairman, item number 37, which is WVR 61857, move to approve.
Motion to approve. Please cast your vote. Please post.
And
Motion
Mr.
carries.
Beg your pardon?
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. And final related item 38, WVR 61858, move to approve.
Motion to approve. Please cast your vote. Please post. Motion to approve carries.
Mr. Chairman, items 36, 37, 38 will be heard at City Council on January 20th, 2016.
And commissioners and staff, I want to wish you a happy holiday season and a happy new year. I'm sure I'll see you next year.
All right. Thank you.
Take care.
Moving on to item 39, VAR 61860, applicant owner Azure Development LLC for possible action on a request for a variance to allow 44 residential adjacency setback where 105 feet is minimum required on the south side of Azure Drive, approximately 455 feet west of Tenaya Way, Ward 6 Ross. Staff recommends denial. And then item number 40, SDR 61862 for possible action on a request for a site development plan review for a 31,050 square foot commercial recreational amusement indoor facility, game courts with waivers of town center, parking lot, landscaping and building facade requirements. Ward 6 Ross. Staff recommends denial. Staff report.
Mr. Chairman, the applicant is requesting approval for the construction of a two-story facility that will house 2 regulation game courts for basketball, volleyball, and other indoor activities, as well as an exercise room, yoga room, and cafe. This development will require a variance of the residential adjacency setbacks, as well as a waiver. Waivers are needed for building design and parking lot landscaping consistencies with the Town Center Development Standards Manual. Staff cannot support these requests and the associated site development plan review, as the residential adjacent standards could be addressed through alternative site design. As well as the proposed elevations feature large areas of flat wall surfaces with no articulations, are windowless on the east and west sides, and do not contain visual interest and patterns of materials at street level. Furthermore, the bright primary colors chosen should only be used for accents and not as a main background color. As a result, the building design will clash with the existing development along the south side of Azure Drive. Please note that additional letters of protest and support have been received after the publishing. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and fellow commissioners. My name is Cindy Hernandez, here on behalf of owner and applicant Azure Development LLC. My client, I'm sorry? Any better?
Yes.
Thank you. Quick repeat, Cindy Hernandez on behalf of the owner applicant Azure Development LLC. Its representative is currently out of the country and apologizes for not being here on this important matter. For the sake of brevity, but certainly not to pale in comparison in importance to the matters before the commission, excuse me, the Planning Commission tonight, we will push through with what we understand is the biggest focal points with respect to the pending request for variance and waiver. As I understand it, the waiver with respect to the landscaping island, it was an existing landscaping plan in place. The idea is to eliminate one island to bring it in conformity in order to facilitate the development of this initial plan. As I understand it, Mayor Pro Tem Steve Ross has been in favor of this project, and I'm somewhat surprised to learn that there was opposition submitted after the publishing date. And to the extent that those individuals are here, we'll address those concerns as much as we can. But essentially how this development came to be is, as submitted to Mr. Ross, was that there were going to be 3 basketball courts on this property. Property to the east is a tavern that had already gone to permit. There is an ongoing discussion with respect to 30 feet, which appears to be an encroachment with that existing permit. What had happened essentially is that the permit issued prior to the subdivision of the property, and now there's active matters to try and get those resolved. But essentially it's a 2-court, currently in phase 1, it's a 2-court basketball court, which is also aimed to include volleyball. It has a small cafe. It's really intended to be a local, it's late, to be something that helps to facilitate what's going on currently approximately 2 miles down the road with the YMCA. If you've been in this area, which is approximately the 215 and Durango, it's an area that is on weekends as well as weeknights, very, very busy with various activities. So it appears that this is 2 miles down the east, certainly intended to accommodate the community. With respect to the color scheme, as proposed, it's very much intended to gather the interest of the community. I believe that the client is open to hearing different recommendations and or conditions with respect to paint color. It's not intended to be certainly in conflict with any warning colors or, sorry, I'm getting over a cold, with respect to any emergency vehicles or any incidents that may come up. And finally, with respect to the design, as it was first proposed to Mayor Pro Tem Ross, this was essentially intended to be 3 courts. It's an L-shaped building structure as proposed. If it were to be inverted as suggested, which is, I believe, the gist of the harm is self-imposed, it just can't be flipped. It would essentially take away the entire purpose of this development on this property. And with that, I believe that I have addressed the issues in short form. I turn it over to you.
Thank you. This is a public hearing. Anyone wanting to be heard, please come forward, state your name for the record. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and turn it over to the commission for discussion and possible action.
Mr. Chairman, I'm prepared to make a motion then. Seeing no comments, item number 39, VAR 61860, move to approve.
Motion for approval. Please cast your vote. Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, item number 40, SDR 61862, move to approve.
Motion to approve. Please cast your vote. Please post. Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, items 39 and 40 are final action unless appealed to the city clerk's office within 10 days.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to item number 44. I'm going to butcher this name. I've been waiting on it to come up all night. VAR 61754. Applicant, Prachatuch Thangu, sorry. Owner 3J's, for possible action on a request for a variance to allow 41 parking spaces where 63 parking spaces are required for an existing restaurant at 3839 West Sahara at Sahara Avenue, Suite 9, Ward 1, Tarkanian. Staff recommends denial. And then variance 61, oh, no, just there. Staff report, please.
Mr. Chairman, this request is for a parking variance to allow the applicant to complete expansion plans for their existing restaurant. Since no circumstances related to the physical characteristics of the subject site provided grounds for a variance, staff could not support this application. Please note that an additional letter of support was received after the publication of this item. Thank you.
Thank you. Could I get your name and address for the record?
Yes, my name is Prachata, Tong is nickname Peter. And my address, 4416 Buckeye Avenue, Las Vegas, 89102. And my wife, she's gonna have a statement.
Hi, my name is Sasiton Poti Dok Mai, 4416 Buckeye Avenue, Las Vegas, 89102. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we are here about the parking space. We had 41, but they require 63. So we just here ask you guys to support us because we cannot add any extra parking because we are only a small restaurant, and then we have customer like lunch come and go very quick. So we still have parking space. For employee, we have parking space on the back, so we don't worry about employee parking. With the manager, the plaza manager, we are parking on the back, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so maybe we
All
can
right.
get.
Thank you. This is a public hearing. Anyone wishing to be heard, please come forward, state your name for the record. Seeing none, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing and turn it over to the Planning Commission for discussion, possible action. Commissioner Quinn.
Hi, Peter. Hello, ma'am. So your restaurant's in a shopping center, correct?
Yes.
It's not freestanding, it's in a shopping center?
Different. They're two separate plaza.
What?
They're two separate. They're two plaza next
We
to
have a tin shop, nail, and
nail and haircut.
Okay. So you're saying that on any given night, your busy night, 35 parking spaces are enough? You don't need,
everybody close.
everybody else is closed?
Yes.
The nails are closed,
They are closed at
everything's closed?
5, yes.
So, but you're open and you use their parking spaces, so it all seems to be working out just fine for you?
Yes, correct.
All
Okay.
parking is mine.
Yeah, I think you're an honest, good man, Peter. There's just something tells me that about you. Anyway, if nobody else has anything to say, I'm going to make a motion on this item.
Please
Does
do.
anybody else want to speak? And this is for you, Peter. I'm going to make the motion for approval on application 61754, and my motion is for approval.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you very much.
Commission.
Thank you, Commission.
Motion for approval. Please cast your vote. Please post.
There you go, Peter.
Thank you
Motion
very much.
carries.
Thank you, Commission.
Mr. Chairman, that item is final action unless appealed to the city clerk's office within 10 days.
Thank you
Have
so
a good
much.
evening.
Thank you.
Happy New Year.
Thank you.
Moving on to item 45, VAR 61788, applicant Ruby Sanchez, owner Charleston Boulevard Trust, for possible action on a request for a variance to allow no additional parking spaces where 12 additional parking spaces are required for a proposed expansion to a general personal service beauty salon use at 3031 East Charleston Boulevard, Suite A, Ward 3, Councilman Coffin. Staff report recommends denial. Can I get the staff report, please?
Sure, Mr. Chairman. The proposed business currently occupies two beauty stations, which requirement of 6 parking spaces. The applicant would like to increase that number of stations. The available parking on site doesn't allow for that, and therefore they're seeking the parking variance. As such, staff finds that it's self-imposed because they're increasing the intensity of their use on site and cannot support the application. Thank you.
Hello.
Thank you.
My name is Ruby Sanchez, 3031 East Charleston.
Landon Christopherson, 2885 East Quail Avenue, Las Vegas, Nevada, here representing the client and as well as the property owner. Just real quick, want to go over the parking. Right now, as the staff's report stated, it is currently not fully occupied. There's 24 spaces currently on the site. When we met with, Rick, with traffic engineering to go over the potential of adding some parking spaces. Right now, it's current city standard that you can't park in the alleys, but we do have about 12 feet adjacent to each building where we could do some parallel parking. Right now, the uses are less intense, so there is the space is needed, but since it is appointment only, we don't believe that 3 spaces per chair is needed, more like 2. Have one in the chair, and the other one comes when the other person leaves. We have the approximately, by adding additional 4 to 5 spaces, about 27 spaces that would be available, and here to answer any questions you may have.
I also wanted to say that on a regular day, I want to have 6 chairs altogether. On a regular day, I will not have 6 people working. So I would most likely just have 3 people working, and sometimes people have days off, people work in the mornings, people work in the afternoons, and we are not always busy. I wish we were always busy, but we're not. Also, one of the stations is not going to be used for cutting hair. It will be used for waxing eyebrows. So it would be more like having 5, and not, like I said, not everyone's going to be working at the same time. The only time we would have all stations being worked at is once a year. On Thanksgiving, we give free haircuts just to give back to our community, to everyone. And that's the only day that we would actually have 5 people working. But apart from that, we don't. We would have 2-3 people working on a regular day, on a regular shift.
Thank you. This is public hearing. Anyone want to be heard, please come forward, state your name for the record. Seeing none, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing, turn it over to the commission. I'll just make a comment that, our rules on having three parking spaces per chair is overburdensome, and it's not likely that you're going to have somebody in the chair and 2 people waiting to get their hair cut. No. So I could support this.
Through the chair, on item VAR 61788, I'd make a motion for approval.
Motion for approval on the floor. Please cast your vote. Motion passes.
Mr. Chairman, this item is final action unless appealed to the city clerk's office within 10 days.
Thank you for your community service, ma'am, very much.
Related items 46 and 47. Item 46, SUP 61781, applicant Murphy Oil USA, owner Pierce Robinson Eastern LLC, for possible action on a request for a special use permit for a proposed 1,400 square foot beer wine cooler off-sale establishment at the southwest corner of Craig Road and Jones Boulevard, Ward 4, Anthony. Staff recommends denial. 47, SDR 61785, for possible action on a request for a site development plan review for a proposed 1,400 square foot general retail store, convenience store with fuel pumps, with a waiver to not orient the building to the corner where such is required. Ward 4, Anthony. Staff recommends denial. Staff report, please.
Mr. Chairman, regarding the special use permit for the beer wine cooler off sale, staff finds that this use is compatible with the adjacent properties in the area. However, it is tied to the approval of the accompanying site plan review, and as such, staff is recommending denial of the site plan review as the building fails to meet the requirement for the building orientation, to have the building oriented towards the primary right-of-ways, and is recommending denial. Please note, we have received additional letters of protest since publication.
Thank you. Can we hear from the applicant?
Good evening, Jennifer Lazovich, 1980 Festival Plaza Drive. With me also is Wayne Gibson with Murphy Express and the applicant, should you have any questions. On the overhead, you can see the location of the proposed convenience store. It is on the corner, the hard corner of Craig Road and Jones Boulevard. The way the layout sits, the convenience store itself is approximately 1,400 square feet and sits underneath a canopy with gas pumps on either side. If I take this away, you can get a visual of what I'm talking about. This is the way that Murphy Express, which by the way is a company that started in the south and is now migrating west with a number of locations in southern Nevada. This is their prototype. This is the way they build their facilities all across their locations. And that is specifically by putting the convenience store underneath the overhead. The reason for the waiver request, of course, is there's no way to pull that convenience store itself out and put it on the hard corner of Craig and Jones, and quite frankly, a 1,400 square foot building would not mask or hide the gas pumps. Furthermore, with the nature of this use is that it markets itself, of course, to vehicles and the street traffic, because that's what you want to think about when you're driving by, is whether or not you need gas. And so gas pumps themselves tend to be oriented towards the hard corner. We see that on the opposite side of Craig and Jones. There is an existing Shell station over there, and again designed with the gas pumps closest to the street and the building set back behind that. So we would ask for your consideration of this request approving our waiver, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Did you have anything to add, sir?
Wayne Gibson, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, I'm Wayne Gibson with Murphy. Our address is 422 North Washington, El Dorado, Arkansas, 71730.
Thank you. This is public hearing. Anyone wanting to be heard, please come forward. Seeing none, we're going to turn this over to the Planning Commission for discussion.
Mr. Chairman, if there's no further discussion, I'm prepared to make a motion.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, item 46, SUP 617A1, move to approve.
Motion to approve. Please cast your vote. Please post. Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, item number 47, STR 61785, move to approve.
Motion for approval. Please cast your vote. Please post. Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, items 46 and 47 are final action unless appealed to the city clerk's office within 10 days.
Thank you
very much. Have a good
Thank
night.
you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 51, TXT 62304, applicant owner, City of Las Vegas, for discussion and possible action on a request to amend Las Vegas Municipal Code 19.12.070, minimum special use permit requirements relating to motor vehicle sales used to prohibit the use on Rancho Drive between Vegas Drive and Craig Road, and to provide for other related matters. Staff has no recommendation. Staff report, please.
Mr. Chairman, this is a request by City Council to limit used car sales on Rancho Drive between Vegas Drive and Craig Road, and we're here to answer any questions.
This is a public hearing. Seeing that nobody's left with us, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing, turn it over to the Planning Commission for discussion and possible action.
So, Mr. Rankin, Rancho Drive between Vegas Drive and Craig Road. Now, does that mean they would be facing Rancho Drive, or they would be behind Rancho Drive at Vegas Drive and Craig Road, or it would be all-inclusive like a circle?
It would, this ordinance would not allow any parcel that fronted onto Vegas Drive, on Rancho, between Vegas Drive and Craig, to make an application for a special use permit for used car sales.
facing Vegas Drive,
Facing Rancho.
Facing
Facing
Rancho.
Rancho.
Facing Rancho. So the corner lots on these would not be permissible for,
Or
if this
anything
were to be
between.
approved. Or
On
in
Rancho.
between, correct.
Okay, thank you.
There's no further questions. Be looking for a motion.
I'll make the motion on text amendment 62304 for approval.
Motion's been made. Please cast your vote. Please post. Motion carries. Citizens participation. Citizens participation. Public comment during this portion of the agenda must be limited to matters within jurisdiction of the Plan Commission. No subject may be acted upon by the Plan Commission unless that subject is on the agenda and scheduled for action. If you wish to be heard, please come to the podium, give your name for the record, the amount of discussion on any single subject, as well as amount of time. Any speaker is allowed, may be limited. Seeing that nobody's left here, we'll close the public comment. And commissioners have any final comments for the evening?
I just want to
All
wish
right.
you all a very Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year, and I hope we're all here together next year again.
Merry Christmas as well. I call this meeting adjourned.